The NBL Mitsubishi Challenge, proudly brought to you by Always Coca-Cola, Chicken Treat, Respect Yourself, McDonald's, where it's Mac time all the time, and Uncle Toby's. And then there was one game, one prize, and one last chance for the Wildcats and Giants. After tying the grand final series at the Glass House on Friday night, the Perth Wildcats return home for this cutthroat winner-takes-all decider. From Perth, it's the Super Sunday Shootout for the NBL Mitsubishi Challenge Championship between the Wildcats and the Giants.
You got to serve.
And that's the view from inside the Perth Entertainment Centre. We're overlooking the battleground for the 1995 NBL Grand Final decider. Hello and welcome to viewers all over the country on the 10 network. This afternoon, Game 3, the deciding game of the 1995 Grand Final series between the Perth Wildcats and North Melbourne Giants. There can be only one winner this afternoon, no second chances for the loser. On Friday night in Melbourne, the Wildcats levelled the series to come from behind, win that, getting home by 9, 97-88. Blahoff and Grace, stars for the Wildcats in that victory. And this is what's taken place so far in the playoffs. The Wildcats finishing the regular season as minor champions, 19-7 their record. They were taken to 3 by the Tigers in the quarterfinals. They swept the semis against Adelaide, and they've come from a game down against the Giants to level it now at 1-1. While in the bottom half of the draw, North Melbourne swept the quarterfinals against Brisbane, taken to 3 by Magic in the semis. And after losing in Melbourne on Friday night, they find themselves in Perth. Now it's a very good afternoon to John Gardner, and John, it's on the line for both clubs today.
Well, it really is a lot of cliche spoken about this sort of one-off situation at the finish of a series, but there is no tomorrow for the loser. A lot of pressure out there for both clubs.
What about the result of Game 2 just 36 hours ago?
There's not a lot of time, Peter, is there? You know, between travelling across the nation, gearing up for this game, I think the game really is not one of strategy at this point. It's really for the players to get on and do it.
Okay, but what about fitness then? The Giants have 3 players, 35 years on the bench. Is that going to be a factor?
I don't think so. I think those 3 players are playing strategic minutes. They're coming in using their experience. I don't think fitness will be a factor for either club.
Okay, where will this championship be decided then?
Well, I think it has to come back to defence, and I think one of the real keys to that is to keep the Giants under 100 points. They've been one of the leading scoring teams in the Mitsubishi Challenge all year, and in order to achieve that, the second key for me is to ensure that the Wildcats come out intensely on defence, maintain the winning edge that they found so well in Melbourne the other night, and go on with the game.
Okay, let's go courtside now, standing by 2 men who do own championship rings, Mike Ellis and Paul Money. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
How are you going, Peter? Thank you very much. Yes, I've got the mailman over from Melbourne again, and Paul, this is just going to be a fantastic game.
It really is, Mike. I think you look around, we've got another full house here this afternoon, and there's so much at stake. I mean, you've got an NBL Championship, the chance to represent Australia across the seas in London in the World Club Championships, and this is going to be a fantastic game. Everybody, I think, is in for a ripper this afternoon.
All right, well, let's have a look at some of the matchups, and Paul, firstly with you.
Well, in the first game, the Giants, Rod Johnson really stepped up and had 21 points and played a big role. I think the big fella, Paul Rees, is going to have to come to the fore. He's going to have to provide a focal point offensively, and he's going to have to do a good job on guarding Scott Fisher, where he gives up a bit of speed and experience.
All right, let's have a look at the Wildcats. James Crawford, a veteran there. Look at that, 35 years of age. And these are his grand final averages, 16 points at 56 and 7 boards. And that's going to be a huge matchup tonight. Crawford on Rees, and we'll have to watch that one with interest. But it's game time. Let's get this game underway. Let's go courtside for the starting fives.
Welcome to the Perth Entertainment Centre, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to witness Game 3 of the Mitsubishi Challenge Grand Final Series between the North Melbourne Boozeless Giants and the Cope Wildcats. Now, please welcome the starting fives onto the floor. Firstly, for the North Melbourne Giants, Number 9 for the Giants tonight, at forward, Chris Gent. At guard, and number 10 for North Melbourne is Darryl McDonald. In the guard spot for the North Melbourne Giants tonight, number 20, Rod Johnson. Number 22 for the visitors tonight, at forward, Pat Reedy. In the paint, and number 53 for North Melbourne, Paul Rees. The head coach for the North Melbourne Giants is Brett Brown. Now, let's introduce the starters for the Coke Wildcats tonight. The Wildcats veteran playing it forward tonight, number 7, James Crawford. At guard for the Wildcats, number 13, Aaron Trahere. Running the point for the Wildcats tonight, number 15, Ricky Reyes. In the forward spot tonight for the Wildcats, number 21, Andrew Vlahoff. In uniform number 30, at forward tonight for the Wildcats, Scott Fisher. The head coach of the Coke Wildcats is Dr. Adrian Hurley. The referees tonight, Eddie Crouch, Bill Mildenhall and Robbie Barnett.
Well, we've checked the starting fives now to the benches in the Wildcats, mainly a 7-man rotation. Expect Catalini and Stewart to see minutes this afternoon. Gardner, Urban, Thompson haven't seen much play in the grand final so far.
And by contrast, the Giants have a wealth of experience. Mark Leader playing in his last game. Senstock, the most played player in the Mitsubishi Challenge. Stelzer, Shanahan and Pearce, the Iceman.
Crowd getting involved nice and early, and why not? Head-to-head locked up at 7 games each between these two clubs. Perennial finalists in the last 9 years. For the coaches then, head-to-head, Adrian Hurley leads at 6-5 against the youngest man, the coach in the NBL this season, Brett Brown. And finally, the betting this afternoon, the Wildcats starting favourites at 4-6, the Giants at 10-9. But so far in the grand final series, the underdog has won the game. And we're underway in the 1995 grand final decider, and Crawford has given Perth first possession. The veteran feeds it inside, looking for Vlahoff, who desperately keeps it alive. Working against Chris Jett. Let's get some selections. John, who are you going for?
Well, if desperation means anything, that last little example of it by the Vlahoff, captain of the Wildcats, has to tip the scales in a very finely balanced game.
Mike, did you think the win on Friday night has swung it Perth's way now, this championship series?
Mate, I don't think the win on Friday night has done anything for anybody. All it's done is tied it up. Mate, I just really having a hard time picking a winner out of this. I'll tell you once the game's finished. How's that?
Sitting on the fence again is Mike Ellis. He's won a couple of championship rings with the Wildcats, 90 and 91. Trahere left open. This is for 3. It'll bring the house down. It does. The opening score. Aaron Trahere, the 19-year-old, has opened proceedings here as we go to Paul Maley and his thoughts on the grand final.
Well, Peter and John, I'm not going to sit on the fence like Mike, but I am going to say it is very tough to pick. But objectivity aside, I'm going to have to go with the Giants. I think they've got a bit too much scoring power.
It's interesting, Peter, that the Giants have come out in a zone first up. They've really been playing a lot of man-to-man. It was also interesting in the last quarter in game 2 when they needed to dig deep. They went for their time-honoured zone as well.
Here's Reedy working close to the hoop. Couldn't get the shot to go. Vlahoff hit it to Grace. Trahere, another 2. Reverse layup is good. Magnificent start this by Perth. Just what the coach would have ordered. 5-zip at home for this decider. Reedy posting up against Fisher. McDonald feeds it back to Reedy. He's lost the handle on a turnover. Trahere, Grace 3-on-2 situation. Grace scores. 7-zip. Wildcats off to a flyer. Jett inside. McDonald missed it. Another possession to Perth. Just what the Wildcats wanted. Trahere thought about the 3. They've got the momentum. Grace pulls it out. What a start this is for the Wildcats.
Great start, building upon some uncharacteristic turnovers there, maybe a little tension tightening up the muscles in the Giants' hands at the moment. Wildcats with a very pleasant start. But Gent's first foul, and gee, there's a match-up again with Gent and Vlahoff. Vlahoff and Gent, they'll be at it all night.
Won't be a shooting foul, or will it be? Vlahoff will take the inbound pass. 7-0. Vlahoff on the deck there. But what a magnificent game he played in Melbourne on Friday night. Captain's game, that one. One of his best for the Wildcats. Fisher, a former Giant, goes to Trehair. Series tied at 1 game all. This is the third and deciding game in the grand final series. Wildcats go to Crawford. A couple from the baseline. It's 9-0. Do you mind?
Well, everything's gone the Wildcats' way, but we've seen both of these clubs trade blows so regularly, and they're too good to get this lead up their nose.
The Giants with no option but to call an early timeout. 2 minutes into the grand final, the Wildcats lead at 9-zip. And back at the Perth Entertainment Centre, the Wildcats picking up where they left off on Friday night. They stormed home in game 2 of the series. The Giants forced to call an early timeout, and Paul, some worries in the North Melbourne camp early.
Yes, Peter, I think the Giants have picked up right where they left off, unfortunately for them, and that was struggling offensively to get any sort of motion. And
Vlahoff now at the other end can make it 11-0, and this is a complete turnaround from what we've seen in the series. The Giants have been the fast starters. In game 1 they hit 31 points. Game 2, 30. Here's Rees now. Where will he go to Reedy? Vlahoff in his face. The Giants have been the quick starters in the grand final series. The only team to have scored 230 or more points in the quarters. Here's Gent for 3, missed it. Nothing happening for North Melbourne. They'll get another possession though. Gent on the dribble. They need to steady here, North Melbourne.
They needed that 3-point from Gent. Johnson comes up with another reply, but that was a very critical situation, and Gent is showing frustration and tension. He's got a quick hand foul out there against Ricky Grace. That's Gent's second. And Paul, there seems to be a little bit of tension in the Giants camp. Maybe the pressure swung back a little to them after that disappointing let-off that they were unhappy with in game 2.
Well, I think that's probably true, and I come back to what I was just saying a moment ago about offensively, and they were not able to find any sort of rhythm, and they got almost no motion in the second half of game 2, and they haven't been able to thus far in the start of this game 3, and that's got to be playing on their minds at this moment. 11-0, start of the third game.
Vlahoff gave the Wildcats another possession, slapped that out, and now Perth can settle it. They stayed in a hotel in the city last night. Grace for 3, plenty of arc. Got the backboard. What about that, Mike, the tactic to stay together?
Well, it's like anything. We see Gent nail the first 3, and that's a welcome 3 for the Giants. But it's like anything, Peter, the administration believes, or the coaching staff in particular, believe that the Wildcats needed to focus on this game. Obviously, most important game of the year, so they feel they can do that better. And the record on the road proves that. So they figured, well, let's stay with that.
Well, it's been a bold move, and so far paying off. This team very focused. Coming off that win on Friday night, Fisher, will he penetrate? He's double-teamed. Trehair in 3-point territory. They've got 5 seconds on this play. Fisher down to 3 now, feed it inside to Vlahoff. They count for 2. He's fouled. They had a second on the shot clock. Well, the Cats now with a chance for a 3-point play.
That's the patience, Peter, that the Wildcats have really built towards in the latter part of the season. They've learnt to milk the clock in terms of being constructive, and inevitably Vlahoff bobbed up there low on the baseline near the block, had the inbounds pass, and the added advantage, of course, is that it becomes a 3-point play if he makes the foul.
He is 14 from the foul line in the grand final series, Andrew Vlahoff, and the Wildcats lead it by 11, 14-3. North Melbourne now with some work to do. They're down by 11. The defending champions going for back-to-back. Here's Gent now, gets past Fisher, bedded inside, really lost the handle on it. It's a Giants ball though.
See, so much pressure is on Gent. Gent is the main scorer. He's their spearhead out there, and he's up to the task, Treat. He'll just keep on shooting. He'll find his rhythm. I don't think he'll ever lose it. But ultimately, the Wildcats have to concentrate on shutting him down, but they can't let other people like Johnson did in game 1 come up with too many easy buckets.
Johnson's got it now, baseline, his short jumper, didn't drop. Vlahoff got the rebound. The Giants averaging just under 30 points in the opening quarter in this grand final series, and so far they've been held to 3. And and we've played 4.5 minutes. Just the start Perth needed. The crowd well and truly involved. That will be a factor. Make no mistake about that in this grand final decider. Blahoff double teamed. 8 on the shot clock now. Plenty of blocks off the ball. Here's Fisher. They've got 4 now and they've lost it. Turnover. Giants down the floor. McDonald past Grace. They won't count the 2. They waved that off. The foul was well and truly before McDonald put up the shot.
Well, it's a nice move by Grace as well. He was beaten for pace and change of direction there by Jet. Nice little by McDonald. Nice little crossover. And of course, by virtue of the fact that the foul was well before the shooting action, the emotion also was taken away from the Giants. There's another foul. This one will send Reedy to the foul line. But it was interesting to see, Paul, that the Giants have gone back to man now, and they've had a little bit more success.
Well, I think wanted to open up the game in a bit of zone defense as well as full court pressure to try and create some tempo, get the Giants running the ball, get the ball in Daryl McDonald's hand. Of course, what we've had is a few bad turnovers, and it worked the other way. But I would suggest that they'll be switching it up all night long. A bit of both.
Reedy gets the first. Anthony Stewart has checked in for Aaron Trahair sitting down. 5.5 minutes on the court, and Trahair has hit 5 points, including a 3-pointer to open up this grand final decider. 14 playing 5 now, and Grace is down the floor. The Wildcats have the numbers. Blahoff off the glass, offensive rebound. Crawford, who puts it down.
Little press breaker employed there by the Wildcats. They worked that so well against the Giants and in Adelaide, against Adelaide, so they're very comfortable breaking the pressure.
The Giants won game 1 of the series by 7, 104-97. Game 2 into the Wildcats by 9, 97-88. Gent now in the face of Blahoff. Blahoff did a great job on Gent in the last quarter of game 2. He found McDonald, who scored a couple, and now it's a 9-point game. 16-7. What a start this is for the Wildcats.
Well, very impressive start, but you know, the Giants are such a tough team, and this has been a great series, and both clubs won't be fazed by such a swing in the scoring so early. They'll battle on either way to maintain or to build, and I'm sure you'll see it grow.
Crawford banked it off the glass. Wildcats out now by 10, or make that 11. 18 playing 7. Timeout. Perth in front by 11. Wildcats out of the blocks quick here in the 3rd and deciding game of the grand final series. They lead by 11, 18-7. Daryl McDonald on the end of a good pass from Chris Gent helps the Giants cause as we go courtside. Mike Ellis, who's just broken up from the Wildcats huddle.
Yes, Adrian Hurley obviously concerned about this Giants group. He knows how quickly they can score and how quickly they can gobble up this lead, and he certainly made sure that he told everybody about it. And
Thank you, James Crawford. Massive block by the man in his 6th grand final series. Paul, what about the Giants?
Well, I think you'll see that they're going to try to keep the court a bit more spread, give them a few more opportunities at driving to the basket, and again, a bit more motion. Too stagnant.
Reedy went looking for leader. The pass was chopped off. Wildcats down the floor. There's Fisher. Fisher from the D shoots for 2, and he punishes the Giants. 20-7. Perth in front by 13. Fisher with his opening score.
Huge start out there, and nothing as emphatic or as impressive as that last block by Crawford on McDonald. And I think that's one of the real keys for the Wildcats at this stage. The veteran Crawford is able to intimidate in the key way, and you can see some frustration coming in from the Giants now. Larry Senstock, the veteran, comes up with his first foul for the game.
The Wildcats will take it from the baseline. Senstock checking in along with Mark Leader, a couple of 35-year-olds out there for the Giants. It's a hot day in Perth. It was hot yesterday when both teams arrived. They go to Crawford from Grace. The fake inside. Fisher, another 2. 22 playing 7. The Wildcats up by 15 now. And no doubt the team hasn't forgotten the defeat of the grand final in '93. Very focused, as we said from the outset. Reedy over Fisher for a couple. He missed everything except the backboard. Slap down, 3-on-2 break Perth. Grace, will he go to Fisher? Does now. No, look, Fisher the fake, can't put it away. Grace will get it back to give Perth another possession. Feeds it to Stewart, and the Wildcats pull it out. Well, everything happening for Perth. What a start this has been.
Huge start. A lot of pressure being transmitted to the Giants bench out there. They're a little shell-shocked right now, but I'm sure they'll find the answer to get back into the rhythm.
A whistle against the Giants captain leader, who ended up on the floor, who was tangled up with Blahoff. There was a look of Brett Brown, the youngest coach in the NBL, the man that took the Giants to a championship last year.
It's an interesting scenario as well, Peter, if you look at the officials. Mildenhall, Crouch and Barnett, I think, are rightfully doing this third game and have refereed very, very well in the last couple of months, and they've allowed the game to flow. There's been contact, and it is a contact game, and they've allowed to be, the balance has been right.
And Blahoff remains perfect from the foul line in the grand final. Gets the second, pulls it out now to a 17-point lead. 24-7. I think the last thing everyone thought about was a blowout early. The first two games going down to the wire. They go baseline. The Giants, another big reject by Crawford. It's a catch ball from the baseline. Well, I know it's an old cliche, but it's all happening for the Wildcats.
James Crawford, the 35-year-old vet, 402 games, has had 3 big blocks. He's intimidating the Kiwi, and that makes a tremendous difference to the team that penetrates.
Here's Crawford from a Grace assist. He's got the 2, another potential 3-point play coming up for the Wildcats. Let's check this score. 26-7. The Wildcats up by 19, and we played 8 minutes in the first term. And Mike, this is beyond all expectations.
Well, it certainly is, and look what we've got right here.
Another timeout called by the Giants. They're in big trouble. And a dream start for the home club at the Perth Entertainment Centre. The Wildcats led it by 19. A blowout early on. 26 playing 7. And major concerns in the Giants huddle, Paul May.
Yes, Peter, I think what Brett was trying to do for most of that timeout was quell any sense of panic that might be creeping in, urging the guys to, the inside players, to get a bit of crisscross action going, keep the court spread, reverse the ball. I think, though, the biggest factor right now with the Giants camp is what are they thinking when they shoot the ball? To me, they're probably their own worst enemies until they start getting on a bit of a roll here.
And that's the thing, Paul, they can get on a roll too. This team can just fill it up all of a sudden with something like that, you know, a breakdown there. The Wildcats can't afford to be slack or think that they've got this ball game won, because this is still a long way from over.
And that's one of the pressures, Michael, that Adrian Hurley and Dave Hancock would be feeling. As coaches, this is a great lead, but they know how quickly it can be dissolved. The pressure's somewhat on the Wildcats here to build on a very comfortable lead, whilst Brown really has to come down with the Giants and do something, and anything will help. But the Wildcats, I feel, are in the pressure situation at the moment.
A couple of turnovers in that last passage. Stewart stripped of the ball by McDonald, who leads the league in both assists and steals. McDonald wants to take it all the way, threw up a prayer, came up with nothing. No whistle included. The Wildcats stopping there, and McDonald taking a long time to get down to the Wildcats half. Blahoff, Fisher the fake. This is for a couple, sweet shot. Fisher has 6, Perth 28, and they're back out to a 19-point lead.
They're the sort of things that I was talking about. Little breakdown there, little lack of focus. The Wildcats, it's so easy not to become complacent, but not play with the same focus.
Here's leader, goes to Reedy. No look, Senstock. The 3, plenty on that. Grace got a hand on it, gave it to Crawford, who has 8 first quarter points. Grace, rotation, Stewart 3. Crawford will get the rebound. No slap back, Fisher's way. Well, the ball is bouncing Perth's way, no question about that. 30-9, a 21-point lead to the Wildcats.
It's a huge imbalance, but, you know, what have we looked at, Peter? I think the biggest difference between these two clubs in the series so far has been something like 10 or 12 points. Is
a 12-point lead to the Giants in the second quarter of game 2. They squandered that before going down by 9. In fact, in that game, John, there was a 22-point turnaround from the midway mark of the second quarter to the midway mark of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Wildcats came out very focused after half-time. And right now you're seeing some of the changes that Brett Brown's looking for. He's looking to change it. They've got an extended defense, a 1-2-2. I suspect they'll go back into a 2-3 zone after that. And they're looking to change things up, give it a different look and try and chip away.
Giants are forced to turn over. The Wildcats shooting at a 72% clip. That's remarkable. The Giants down to 25%. Here's Gent, who has 5 first quarter points. Reedy got free and threw it away. Well, he was in two minds, thought about the shot, then went for a pass. No one there. And the Wildcats will take possession.
Little let-offs coming against the Giants here that Brown wouldn't be happy with, neither with the Giants players, of course. But this is where I believe the pressure is on the Wildcats to maintain their intensity and do the little things right, not relax at all.
Here's Fisher in traffic. Grace, he's got Trahair free, who pulls it back out. Fisher to Grace. Wildcats rotation. Good McDonald with a second steal. Johnson down the floor. It's a 2-on-3 situation. Johnson wants to take it to the hoop and he's fouled.
Nice strong move there by Johnson. He was isolated on the right-hand side of the court. Little stutter, little hesitation, dribble. Got Trahair moving one way. Knife through the middle and the foul will come across against Catalini, I would suspect. Either way, it will send Johnson to the foul line, who was the hero for the Giants in game 2.
And yet, 21 in that game, kept to just 2 in the second game, and that was a major factor in the Wildcats winning that match.
That was a huge adjustment, and many people looked at Johnson's outside shooting. He was only 2 from 9 from the arc, but he got a lot of interior shots, and the Wildcats made that adjustment primarily through people like Crawford that were intimidating in game 2.
Well, if you just joined us, that scoreline was correct. The Wildcats making the running in this opening term of the grand final decider. They lead by 18. They have possession. It's 30 playing 4, counting down to a minute now left in this first term, which has entirely belonged to the Wildcats. Catalini, a good three-point shooter. That one came up short. Another rebound of Fisher, but he couldn't control it. And the Giants now, with a minute 1 to play, can come back here.
Little outside shot there, the things we're talking about, Peter. I'm sure that Adrian Hurley would want the ball to go inside first, where their strength is for their power game. After that play phase, come out and take the perimeter shot if it's open.
Both clubs in their 51st playoff game this afternoon. Gent for 3. They needed that, and they get it. Gent now has 8. He's a great shooter, and the Giants have pulled it back to a 15-point deficit, 30-15. And we've got just on 35 seconds to play now, and I don't think quarter time can come quick enough for North Melbourne. They need to regroup. But the last couple of minutes, they have steady. Here's Vlahoff, back out to Grace. Will he penetrate? No look to Trahair, won't put up the 3. Johnson comes out to guard him. They go to Fisher, baseline, shoots, too much on that. Can Catalini control it? He does. A little underground pass to Grace, kept it alive. Wildcats now with 9 seconds before quarter time to make a score. Grace on the dribble, gets free, threw it out to Vlahoff. He fires for 3, missed it, and it's quarter time. Wildcats will go to the huddle, 15-point leaders. They get a standing ovation here. It's 30 to the Giants' 15. And welcome back to the Perth Entertainment Centre, just in time for the start of the second quarter of this third and deciding game of the grand final series. The Wildcats have come down with first possession. A special welcome to our viewers watching around the country on the 10 network. Our viewers from Melbourne wouldn't be happy with this start by the Giants. There's a long way to go, though. Here's Vlahoff, the captain, for a couple, rimmed out. Rebound taken by Reedy. And John, what about the scoreline at quarter time?
Well, very impressive towards the home club, but don't underestimate the Giants. They're a tough outfit and they played well, and they've got people like Johnson that can make up that distance. They can score in a hurry. One of the interesting stats is that the Wildcats are out rebounding the Giants 16-3. That's probably because the Wildcats are shooting at 62% while the Giants are fairly poor at 29%.
Well, at one stage, North Melbourne was down by as many as 21, Mike, but they've done well to pull it back to 12 now.
Well, they have, as we see Fisher take a 3, and that was a handy one for the Wildcats because they dried up for a little while, and the Giants were starting to get like they felt they were in a bit of a zone for a while.
15-point lead to the Wildcats. 33 to 18, and Gent went from downtown. The bomb didn't land. Trahair, Vlahoff, terrific move that by Perth. Championship stuff. 35 to 18. Perth responding quickly. Back out to 17, Paul.
Yeah, and that first basket with Rod Johnson was exactly what Brett Brown wanted to see. Quick ball reversals. He feels that the Wildcats are really packing it in the middle of their defensively, and if we get some quick ball reversals around the perimeter, should come up with some decent shots.
Little pressure there too, Pete. I saw the eye contact between Gent and Brown during that last situation when Fisher made the 3. Really, Brown was unhappy that Gent didn't get out there, and I suppose that pressure is going to exert itself in this quarter.
Trahair nets another triple. It's 38 to 18, back out to a 20-point buffer to Perth. And Brett Brown has called his third timeout for the game. Early going in the second. A 20-point lead to the Wildcats. There's our amazing scoreline. 10 minutes to run before half-time. Wildcats 38, the Giants 18. A 20-point lead. The home club. Trehair, the no-look. The dish to Vlahoff. The layup is good. Vlahoff went all the way. It's all happening for the Wildcats. At one stage, North Melbourne got it back to 11 in that second quarter, John, before the Wildcats put the foot on the accelerator again.
A couple of big buckets there. One from Fisher, really focused them, and then a couple of mistakes as well from the Giants that gave. And there's another one that gave the Wildcats easy baskets, and that's the sort of thing they've got to be very careful to avoid, because I think there's something like 6 turnovers against the Giants so far.
That's the biggest lead of the game, Paul. A 22-point lead now. Johnson firing for 3 with nothing to lose. Reedy put it back in. They waved the shot off. Reedy is called for a foul under the hoop. He was doing some pushing there. So the shot doesn't count. The Wildcats retain their 22-point lead.
Well, guys, I think you'll see the Giants back to a man-to-man defense here, and to me, I think that's probably the thing they're going to have to go with for quite some time for the rest of the half, because they're giving up too many perimeter jumpers, and the Wildcats are knocking them down.
The other thing that Adrian Hurley is a bit concerned about from the Wildcats' point of view is he thought they started to go a bit negative at the start of this second quarter, and that's always the problem when you've got a lead. You always tend to try and protect it.
Peter, one of the interesting sides as well, the signs that has come up, that was the 3rd timeout from Brett Brown, so Coach Brown hasn't got any more timeouts to use for the remainder of this half. That's a sign of the desperate straits that he finds his club in.
Well, Andrew Vlahoff captained the Wildcats in 93. They lost that championship that year, and the look on that man's face tells the story a moment ago. Perth out by 24 then, and this game is in danger of being blown out of the water. 42-18, 9 minutes to play now before half-time. And what a start this is for the Wildcats. Fisher 11, Trehair 10, Vlahoff 11, Senstock from range, missed it. And now Grace down the floor. He has 2 and 4 assists to go. Crawford, baseline, goes out. Trehair thought about the triple. Clever little pass. Crawford left open. Bread and butter shot. Too much time on that. Crawford now becomes the 4th Wildcat into double figures. He has 10. And what about this lead? 26 points. It's 44-18.
More importantly, Pete, the Wildcats, after 4 minutes of the second quarter, have got 44 points on the board. They've averaged the same score, 97, throughout the season and the playoffs against the Giants. So you've got to say something about the Giants' defense or the offense of the Wildcats that's executed very well.
McDonald, block number 4 by James Crawford, looking for his 3rd championship ring here this afternoon.
Interesting too, Peter. Great block by Crawford, but at one end of the court, McDonald's going at one referee. Gent at the other side is talking about, and Eddie Crouch right now is warning Gent to put the lid on it.
McDonald, one way then the other. We've got a whistle. We should point out that the winner this afternoon will head to London tomorrow morning to take part in the unofficial World Club Championships. The NBL champions have been seeded up against the NBA champions, the Houston Rockets. That game will be played at Wembley on Friday night, and Ken will telecast the match on Saturday afternoon from 2 o'clock in Saturday basketball. So not that these clubs need added incentive as McDonald misses from the foul line to please the hometown fans, but something, a bit of icing on the cake, that.
I think it is very much icing. Neither of these clubs will be looking at it as anything else except just that, a little bonus at the deal. They want to get through this particular situation here, and the pressure is on both clubs out there from different points of the spectrum, and I'm just a little bit concerned for the Giants that they're losing focus and they're arguing with officials, but gee, they've been such a good club all year, you'd expect them to regroup.
So down by 25 points. Grace now looking to penetrate. Got 3 on the left hand, is fouled rather crudely by Paul Rees.
That's his first foul.
Wildcats don't need to retaliate here.
No, they've got to be smart and stay cool, and that's exactly what they will do. But you see, that's a little bit of the frustration that's coming in. Mind you, I don't expect anything less of the Giants. They're not going to give up any easy shots. They're already been punished by some of those easy buckets on layups.
Well, they're not going to, and that's the case. I mean, it's a grand final series. No matter what the score is, both of these teams are going to play for their lives, and Rees just wasn't going to give up an easy layup to Grace. And I mean, there was nothing malicious in it. It was just a good, strong foul.
Gets the first as Grace pulls the lead out now to 26. 45-19. Grace shooting at 85% from the foul line in this grand final series. Normally very good from there. Gets the second. And now this lead, John, is 27.
Well, it's huge, isn't it? You know, and you wonder what the Giants will do. I suspect they will stay in man and they'll scrap. They won't try and get it back straight away. They'll try and chip away bucket by bucket, just like that. But the Wildcats really have to retain their focus, because that focus is so important to maintain their momentum.
Guys, I think one of the things they're going to have to do is take better care of the ball. I mean, to this stage, they've given the Wildcats just far too many fast break opportunities.
Timeout, 7:43 to play in the first half. Perth by 27, 46 to the Giants, 19. And back at the Perth Entertainment Centre, Brett Brown. Can he get his team back up here? They're down by 27, 46-19. The Giants going in as reigning champions, and they're in a big hole at the moment, Paul.
They are, and Brett Brown just spent an extremely emotional timeout, urging the guys not to get frustrated and start getting on the referees, the things you guys were just talking about. Instead, to use that emotion, be physical, but not in a stupid way, set good screens, and be smart about things. It's the only way they're going to get back in this game.
Adrian Hurley imploring his troops to just keep playing hard, punish the Giants on defense, force the ball inside and make them play that inside defense, and just keep running the ball.
Well, McDonald got that back in the nick of time, nearly a violation. 7:24 to run in this first half. It's been one-way traffic. Reedy for a couple. Shot hit the rim, and Grace was first on it with that rebound count. Now massive imbalance there. 20 to the Wildcats, 5 to North Melbourne. The Wildcats playing like champions at the present time. There's Fisher, goes for a couple, and that's a rare miss for Scott Fisher.
Not the sort of action that Adrian Hurley would want, that little one-off move from the top. He wants the ball to go through more hands. Crawford with a foul, a hand foul. Crawford remonstrating. That's only his first foul. And that's the other thing, of course. The Wildcats don't want to get involved with any sort of bitching about officials. Crawford reaches in here. He may well have got the ball, but he made the contact as well. And players tend to forget that situation. But I wonder, Paul, whether you've seen the Giants this far behind all year.
No, I haven't, and this will be a true test, especially against the type of team they're facing. The Wildcats, with a lead like this, are not going to relinquish it very easily, if at all, and that's what I was talking about earlier. They're going to have to do everything right in order to get back in this game.
McDonald has 5 now, the Giants 21. Here's Crawford for a couple more. Well, James Crawford isn't opening the champagne bottles just yet, but he has 12 now for the first quarter to go with his 4 blocks. Perth led it by 27. They point in all directions, but it's a North Melbourne ball.
Gee, folks, there's a great matchup with Gent, an NBA credential player, an NBA champion against Andrew Vlahov. There's a bit of niggle already. Gent's getting involved, and at the time on the replay, you may not see this in terms of the rest of the game, but Gent was really slapping away at Vlahov's hand. Vlahov stepped up, got a piece of the ball, and you can see the interplay between Gent, the player, frustrated, the official, Eddie Crouch. Here's the replay for you. Watch Gent's left arm. He's got away. Vlahov steps up, dislodges the ball. That's going to go on for the rest of the game.
Here's McDonald. Pump fake is good. Scores 2. So a couple of trips down there for the Giants. It's gone to the hands of McDonald, who scored both. And now it's a 48-23 scoreline, a 25-point margin to the Wildcats, and we're down to 6 minutes to run in this first half. The Wildcats have won the last 2 playoff series against the Giants. Stewart's in the game. Vlahov, Fisher, Grace and Crawford, the 5 for Perth. Stewart for 3. We would have enjoyed that going down. McDonald doing work at both ends. Got the rebound, the behind-the-back dribble around Vlahov. McDonald, a coast-to-coast move. No, kicked it out to Leader. Back to McDonald, playing a lone hand. Had the ball slapped away. A 3-on-2 break. Fisher the trailer. Stewart goes to Fisher. Baseline, bumped by Rees. No whistle. And Grace wisely takes it out.
Smart offense from the Wildcats. They've milked the clock. It's down to 17. They've taken half the 30-second clock away. They're not stalling. They've got to be positive. They don't necessarily need to take the early shot unless it's a gimme.
Grace for 3. well. He's on fire. Ricky has 7 now. Wildcats shooting from outside. 4 from 9. The margin is a whopping 28 points Perth's way. 51-23. Gent is sitting down for North Melbourne. And in comes Darryl Pearce, who celebrates his 35th birthday. He's got the ball on the left wing. Pat Reedy. Chris Gent's had a marvellous year. Reedy got a foul.
He's tough, you know, Reedy. He is ambidextrous. He goes either right or left in that low block situation adjacent to the foul line. Catalini coming in now to give one of the front wall a start. I suspect it will be Andrew Rahoff, the captain. And listen to this crowd applaud the efforts of the Wildcats captain.
Guys, I think if the Giants are going to come back from this sort of deficit, it's going to have to be through the hands of Darryl McDonald. You watched in the last few minutes him take a much more active role, both offensively and defensively. He's the one who has the ability to get to the basket despite incredible defensive pressure. He's going to have to lead this comeback.
But he'll need support though, Paul, won't he? I mean, with Gent on the bench, that's not going to happen just at this minute.
Well, no, but I think Darryl's the kind of guy who, if he creates a bit of space by shifting the focus onto him, then he can dish off and get some of the other players involved.
Pete, one of the keys could well be Pearce as well. Outside shooter. They've taken a shooter off. They've brought another shooter in.
Well, does it go for break time for North Melbourne, Mike? As we watch Grace put up a shot?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a matter of what they need to do is just, and we see McDonald going to the hole very strongly. He's tough to beat there, and Stewart's picked up a foul. But, I mean, they don't want to try and get it back in 5 seconds. They can't do that. They've just got to chip away, try and get it respectable by half.
Which is what the Wildcats did in Game 2 when they were down by 12.
Well, exactly right. And, you know, I mean, Brett Brown's a very astute coach. I mean, I'm sure he's telling his players that, and they all know that. So they're just, you know, been working as hard as they possibly can.
One of the intriguing parts of basketball, Peter, that this league can be achieved quickly and gobbled up quickly. And you get a point where players have such ability to score quickly that it can turn around.
Giants Reedy went for a couple, no good.
Giants are not playing well at the moment. That's the danger sign. They're down and they're not playing well. If they were down and just able to keep in touch, that's a different deal.
Wildcats at a 62% clip their field goal percentage. The Giants under 30 at the present time. 51-24. Crawford nets a couple more. He's having an afternoon out. Here's James Crawford. He has 14 points now. Gent is about to come back into the game for North Melbourne, and Mark Leader, the Giants captain, sits down, 35-year-old, in his last game this afternoon. It's a 53-24 scoreline. That is a 29-point differential the Wildcats' way.
Huge game by James Crawford so far. 100% from the field, 7 from 7, has 5 rebounds to go with that, and has 4 big blocks. And what I've been impressed with as far as Crawford goes, he hasn't tried to do too much with the ball. He's just turned around and shot over the defense.
Nothing going right for North Melbourne. They've given up possession, ran out of room along the baseline. And Perth now with the chance to extend this lead to beyond 30, and that is beyond the wildest expectations, I think, of any basketball fan in the country, let alone the people back here in Perth. The lead by as many before halftime in a grand final in a third game with the series so far has been so tight. They've blown this game apart. Brace goes to Fisher. Another 2 coming up. Didn't drop. Gent got the rebound. And North Melbourne now have got to pick up the shovel and start to dig. Here's Pearce. He goes baseline. The bounce pass to Reedy. It's a Giants ball knocked away from Pat Reedy.
One of the things that the Wildcats have done well in this first half is they've got out to the outside shooters. The Giants have 3 from 10, 30% from three-point line, and they've forced the ball inside, and that's really been to the Wildcats' favour.
And we've got a timeout called by Adrian Hurley. The Cats gather at the bench. 53-24, 3:24 to play in the second. Back at the Entertainment Centre, there's our scoreline, a 29-point lead to Perth. The Giants, their heads hanging low at the present time. Darryl Pearce, 35 today. What about this man, James Crawford? Another 2. He's been perfect from the field. He has 14 first-half points. 7 from 7, John, in his 60th playoff game this afternoon.
Yeah, super shot. There's Gent from range. It'll go to the left. The hair gets it. And, of course, Crawford's really stepped up. He's been averaging 15 in the regular season games this year. He's right on average. He's been averaging 14 for playoffs, so he's right on track.
Rahoff with 11. What about that last time out in the Cats huddle, Mike?
Well, Adrian Hurley saying this last 3 minutes of the quarter is very, very important. He said we can't afford to slow down on what we're doing here.
Foul against Gent, his third. So bigger problems for North Melbourne. Their star input on 3 personals before half-time. He has 8 first-half points. And Paul, give us a line on North Melbourne, can you?
Well, Brett Brown, whereas earlier was trying to quell any sense of panic, is now trying to impress upon the players a sense of urgency. It's one thing to keep talking about. If they're going to make a comeback, he said they've got to do it in these last 3 minutes and get a start on it.
That'll be on Vlahoff as he comes across. And that's the thing that Hurley was talking about as well. A little bit of hesitancy going away from the offense. And, of course, Paul, you were relating to the fact that the players from the Giants now have got to step up. The talk time's gone, isn't it? They've got to step up and do it.
Well, that's exactly right. And it's got to happen at both ends of the floor. Obviously, they've struggled very much at the offensive end, but they've got to create a lot of opportunities by creating some turnovers at the defensive end.
When you go back to the record book, so we had a grand final like this in recent years, Mike, from your own memory, where it's one-sided like this before half-time?
Well, not for a long time. I mean, you know, quite often the final score is blown out a little bit, but generally, you know, to the half at least, it's usually very, very close.
I can't remember one tweet, and I don't think any of the defensive teams or the teams that lost it would want to remember it either. I don't think that is the case. This is the extended defense here from the Giants. There's still a long time to go, 3 minutes in this quarter. And again, I harp on this, the pressure in my books on the Wildcats to maintain their intensity and focus and not allow the Giants back into the game.
Here's Grace on the dribble. They've got 10 on the shot clock. Vlahoff in 3-point territory. Feeds it inside. The fat away by Fisher. Great move that by the former Giant, a member of North Melbourne's 1989 championship team, looking for his first championship ring with the Wildcats. He's been here for 3 years now. Tias for a couple, rimmed out, rebound, comes down to Crawford, and what a half that man's had. 6 rebounds now, 14 points and 4 blocks. Perth led it by 30, 55-25, and looking back at the record book, the biggest winning margin, John, in the grand final game was in 1991. The Wildcats beat Magic by 26, and in 84, Brisbane beat Adelaide by 26.
Well, that'll be an interesting statistic to come up with a full time to see where it does stay there. As Vlahoff and McDonald check the seating arrangements for some of the spectators at the entertainment centre at the other end, Gent puts one off the glass and will go to the foul line.
Well, it's all on for young and old over the end here. We've got spectators going everywhere, and it's good to see both McDonald and Vlahoff helping each other up and making sure they're okay. So that's always very good to see as well.
Mike, that is the press bench, so no doubt Andrew Vlahoff's getting a chance to get even with a few of the riders around the country.
Not happy with the last par he read. But, you know, there's still a great spirit between these two teams, which is something I've admired throughout the playoff series. They take no prisoners when they're out there playing, but they do have respect for each other's ability.
What about the shake of the head of Chris Gent, Paul, when he missed that first foul shot?
Yeah, I think one of the dangers for the Giants here really is letting frustration get the better of them. I would like to see them go into halftime keeping a check on tempers so that they can come out focused in the second half.
Well, McDonald's just been tinged for another foul, and he is an angry man at the present time, heading to the corner of the court and now just resting against the Coke sign there. And I think what we're seeing from North Melbourne at the present time is signs of distress, John, to the point we may even get the white flag out just yet.
Well, it's a way to go, but I thought he was after a drink from the Coke sponsors here of the Perth Wildcats, but that wasn't the case. He was frustrated, and the call was late, but the call was delayed to see if there was any advantage, and what an advantage at the other end!
James Crawford getting up above the rim has 16 first-half points to lead all scorers. And this lead out to 31 points now. Gent looking to respond. Couldn't get it to go. Comes back McDonald's way. Tias for 3, the Iceman. Unlucky. Rimmed out. Rees dragged the rebound down and was fouled. What a half by James Crawford. Well, vintage Crawford, 16 first-half points. There's the Cats huddle.
100% from the field, James Crawford. And of course, when you're shooting at point-blank range, Michael, it's very easy to have a good percentage, but I'm more impressed with his blocks and rebounds. That's where he's been a big factor so far in this half.
Well, that's where he set up. Sorry, Peter, but that's where he set up the play early in the game. You know, he was down there. He did some fantastic work at the defensive end, got some very big blocks, and intimidated the Giants inside a little bit. And he certainly followed up down the other end.
Interesting about James Crawford, a 35-year-old who wants to play on for a couple more years. The Cats reluctant to sign him for that sort of duration. And the way he's come out to play tonight, or this afternoon, he can sign his own contract. He's got it back again, another jam. Crawford's going off here. Crawford has 18 points. I mentioned before, this is his 6th grand final series. 18 first-half points from the 35-year-old. The Wildcats up by 31. Comes back to Treher. Blahoff. Will we see another dunk? He slips and goes the safety way and scores 2 more. It's a 61-28 scoreline. You wouldn't read about this stuff.
Well, that's Crawford's 3rd foul, and Hurley wouldn't be happy with this little pace that's trading right here. I suspect he'll make a change and give the big guy a break, and a well-deserved break.
Well, the applause is for James Crawford, one of the Wildcats' favourite sons, and what a half he's had. Also, Andrew Blahoff coming across to talk to the coach. The bench is up. Let's just go through those stats again, John. We're talking about a 35-year-old athlete, 18 points in the first half. His season, he's averaged around about 16 a game, and he has 6 rebounds and 4 blocks to go with it.
Vintage Crawford averages 24 per career, but in latter years he's stepped down a little bit. He hasn't had to score as quickly as he used to, but ultimately he's really stepped up in this play phase here and intimidated at both ends, and he's been very, very good and instrumental in this very, very strong 30-point lead the home club has with 9 seconds remaining before half-time.
Counting down to the main break then, McDonald, Pierce, this is for 3, never on target. Gent, offensive rebound, gets a couple right on the buzzer. Half-time at the Perth Entertainment Centre in the 3rd and deciding game of the grand final series. The Wildcats in command by 28 points. Brett Brown doesn't look happy. 61-33. Let's go to Paul Maley.
Well, we have Steve Brinney, the assistant coach here. Steve, what's Brett going to say to the players after a half like this to try and get them back in it?
First, we've got to keep our head up. I think we've got to be a lot more aggressive, you know, as aggressive as they are for sure. And let's just keep faith in ourselves and see what happens.
Thanks very much, Steve. Good luck for the second half. That's a word from the Giants, I imagine, for a very different mood. Let's go to Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Well, Dave Hancock, you wouldn't have expected that sort of start.
We'll take it, though. It was a great start for us. It's one half done, and now we just got to go in and make sure that we play strong and don't try to protect the lead.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Dave. Good luck for the second half. Obviously, a happy Wildcats bench, but there's still a lot more to come. Don't go away. We'll be back after this break.
Half-time at the Perth Entertainment Centre. This is the grand final decider, and the Wildcats have blown the game apart. They lead by 28 at the main break, 61-33. And what a half from this man, a 35-year-old James Crawford, 100% from the field. A couple of big slam dunks in that second quarter. He has 18 first-half points, an opportunity basket, that one bouncing off the chest of Andrew Blahoff. But Crawford, 18 first-half points, and he's led the way for Perth here in the grand final decider, 61-33. Well, grand finals are always something special on the sporting calendar. This one, no exception this afternoon. Here's some of the colour then from the Perth Entertainment Centre.
Competition's fierce, both on and off court. But earlier today, it was a lonely mission finding a giant in Big Cat territory.
Do we have any Giants fans? Any Giants fans down here today? Any Giants fans?
Wildcats!
Wildcats! Do we have any Giants fans here? From Melbourne. Oh, you're Giants fans. How are they going to win today?
We haven't come all this way for nothing.
They were flat out preparing for basketball's biggest day.
Let's go now. Come on, Neil, up there in the sound booth. Let's have some defence up there, buddy. Come on, now. Stand up there.
And even the man behind the voice, Ned Coaton's, a devout Wildcat fan, despite having played for both teams in his former life as a basketball star.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Even though the Cats are renowned as the comeback kings and have the home court advantage, fans still had plenty of advice.
Oh, they just have to knock down a few players. Take them out, maybe.
They have to stop Chris Gent and McDonald and just go out and play good defence.
Both teams were locked away in separate hotels overnight, and as they arrived for the do-or-die encounter, the big guns had some extra special support.
How you doing? Good. Bye-bye.
So now it comes down to just one game to decide who will win the NBL's ultimate prize. For both teams, the season is on the line. There is no tomorrow.
The Wildcats already with one hand on that trophy. They lead at half-time by 28 points. The scoreline here, in case you've just joined us, is correct. It's 61-33 the Wildcats' way. We'll take a break, come back with more from the Perth Entertainment Centre after these messages.
Women, come along to me. I'll treat you right now. Just wait and see. If you are dying of a broken heart, just come and see me right from the start. Make you feel alright. Make you feel alright. Make you feel alright. Make you feel alright. Make you feel alright now. Make you feel alright. 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 Make you feel alright now. Make you feel alright.
Back at the Perth Entertainment Centre, still half-time here with the Wildcats leading by 28 points, 61 of the Giants 33. Just looking back at the grand final series so far, John, the side that's led at half-time hasn't won the game, but obviously the lead of this magnitude hasn't been the case in the first two matches, though.
Well, you're right, Peter, and I think that there's a very big ask coming from the Giants. I have no doubt that they will make inroads to this, and the Wildcats will naturally fade a little bit with their resolve. But that sort of execution that you saw from Trahair was the basis of their start.
Well, it was a fairy tale start for the Wildcats, this one here in the first half. I mean, if you had to write the script for a first half, you wouldn't have written it any better.
No, you couldn't from the Wildcats, and conversely from Gent and the Giants. They're very much shell-shocked, and I think that is the operative word to use. And I don't think you can take away anything from that man in picture. James Crawford, really, as his star fades as an athlete, you'd have to expect some adjustments, but he stepped up here tonight. Keeping in mind, Pete, he was not all that well. He was ill in Game 2 in Melbourne, and he's come back and played very well.
Well, the Giants, the leading scorers in the league during the regular season, at 109 points a game, kept to 33 at half-time. The Wildcats have shot the lights out here, 61-33 at the main break as we go through the match stats.
They should make interesting reading, and of course the big stat is the score, and we've talked about that, but if you look at the field goal percentage, 63 is absolutely fairy tale. 26 from 41 from the Wildcats, 10 from 37 from the Giants, and they're a club that regularly shoots over 45-46% from the foul line. 5 from 6, not a lot taken by the Wildcats against 10 from 15 from the Giants. The difference once more is the accuracy rate. 3-point situation, 4 from 10 from the Wildcats, 3 from 13 from the Giants. And remember, they were so good from range in Game 1. Rebounds favour the Wildcats 24-13. The interesting one is the turnovers. I'm surprised that there's parity in that. I would suggest the difference being that the Wildcats have scored every time the Giants have copped the ball up, whilst the Giants haven't been able to do the other.
Let's check the leading scorers then. The 5 scorers for the Wildcats, their starters, 4 in double figures. Crawford heads the list with 18. Blahoff and Fisher 13 each. Trahair 10, that's a bonus. While for the Giants, Gent, the only player in double figures with 11, and McDonald has 7 as we go now to the individual count in the rebound department.
Wildcats big. Blahoff, Crawford 6 apiece. Grace has chipped in there. Fisher 3, Trahair 3. McDonald, he's trying hard. Senstock hasn't had a lot of time. He's come up with 3. The big man Reese has been missing, as has Reedy.
And finally, the assist category. The Wildcats have dished out as a team 16 assists compared to North Melbourne's 5. Just 2 players have got assists for the Giants. I think that says a story there. 5 for Ricky Grace, 4 each to Blahoff and Trahair. Fisher has 2. The Wildcats prepared to share the ball around as we go to Mike Ellis. And Mike, what about the second half? What picture does it paint, do you think?
Well, you know, obviously from the Wildcats' point of view, what they want to do is be very, very intense defensively. They can't afford to let this still very potent Giants squad get off, you know, so they're going to come out very, very aggressive on defense, especially in this start of this third quarter.
And from the Giants' point of view, I just think that, you know, every player has got to know down 28 to a team like Perth, chances are not good that the Giants are going to win this game. However, what are your alternatives? You've got to come out and play like you're going to create the biggest turnaround in the history of basketball. Otherwise, you know, I mean, what else are you going to do if you have pride and heart, and the Giants certainly do. So you're going to see a determined squad, whether they can do it or not. So it's a big ask.
And John, when you talk about back-to-back championships, that's what North Melbourne are aiming for today. It's so tough now at the elite level. The Wildcats are the last club to do that in 90 and 91. That extra edge in terms of determination, desire, the things you can't measure.
That's right, and I think that it's also important to remember both of these clubs have been perennial playoff contenders, and either one will become the third. This will become their third champion, no matter who wins. But Peter, I'd like to make another point. There's James Crawford in action, and he has won the third tip-off of this grand final, Game 3.
Well, that's interesting you mention that, because in Game 2, the Giants surprised a bit by putting Gent at the opening jump, and in the first two quarters, he won the jump and gave North Melbourne first possession. But Crawford, I think, may have been taken by that shock tactic, but in the second half, he came back to win both tips. And he has 19 points now, the star of this third and deciding game. James Crawford, a 35-year-old, can go to 20 points now, and he gets it. Has not missed a shot from the field. It's a 63-33 scoreline, and that is the start the Giants didn't need.
Well, it's the steadying start, isn't it, from the Wildcats' point of view? And I think this is the real key. The Wildcats need to retain their positive attitude, make sure they get second and third efforts, make sure that they're positive in using the clock, and don't give up anything cheap.
Johnson to McDonald, rotation to Gent. Good shot that. That was a 3. And Chris Gent now has 14. He's hit three three-pointers. He had 9 three-pointers going into this game in the grand final so far. So he has 12, and you've got to say at 14 points and at 45%, he's doing his job.
Oh, he'll come up with his average against the Wildcats this year, which is about 28. There's no doubt about that. He won't stop shooting. He'll continue to score and score well. The real question will
be... Another jam, John. Third jam to Crawford. Well, he's made some big plays today. 4 blocks and 3 jams. And Paul, we've gone body to body with him over the years. What an athlete.
He is a fantastic athlete. When he gets the ball that close to the hoop, I think the only thing to do is give him a hard foul and not let him get up and dunk that ball, because he's going to be looking down in the rim.
Another rebound to go with those stats now.
And Peter, one of the things that people may wonder about when they look at this and analyse this particular situation, the Wildcats generally are getting easier shots, not enough defensive intensity from the Giants, and they're getting closer shots.
McDonald missed it. Rees got the rebound. A little fake in the paint. He puts it away. Well, a touch of, I wouldn't say arrogance just yet, Mike, about the Wildcats play, but certainly a great deal of confidence out there.
Oh, you'd have to say confidence. I mean, they've got to be confident at this point, and they're doing a good job defensively, as we see McDonald pick up another foul. And, you know, he's got to try and put pressure on Grace, because Grace is marshalling the troops very, very well at the moment. So, you know, McDonald's got to get up there and try and force some turnovers. But, you know, the Wildcats, hey, they're playing full of confidence at the moment. Unfortunately for the Giants, they're down on confidence, and the Wildcats need to exploit it.
Here's Crawford, tries the reverse layup. The shot was blocked. Got his foot back. He's tripped. Tripped, and he'll go to the foul line. Well, now he's on the floor with Paul Rees. Put the leg out at the right time to Crawford to trap the ball. Then went looking for it on the floor, and he fell over Rees.
It's a pity. You can see it on replay here. The ball comes down. Crawford gets in. Rees just loses his footing. The foul was called right there and then, and there was not much conflict between either. The ball will come in from the baseline, but I like the way the Wildcats are spreading their offense now, and as you see, a hint of desperation which must come out from the Giants. This spread offense will really make it difficult for them.
Fisher, Trahere, nearly stolen by McDonald. Back to Fisher inside. Blahoff fouled by Reedy. Puts the hand up. When you look back at the 93 grand final series, the Wildcats Fab 4, Grace, Blahoff, Crawford and Fisher. They wouldn't have forgotten what took place here in 1993. Graphic memories of the team having to sit on the bench and watch the Melbourne Tigers gained the championship that year, and I'm sure in the last few weeks that has worked on the Wildcats' minds.
Well, the Wildcats will be thinking of that, and that was a tough series for them, as was the series against the Tigers in the quarterfinals, which I think really set the Wildcats' trend throughout this playoff. They were toughened through that series.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, John, because they had a great series against the Tigers, a real tough one, and then, of course, they turned around against the form team in the league at that time, the 36ers, and did a good job there. And now it's really held them in good stead for this contest.
Lahoff blocked the Gent shot down the other end, goes to Fisher off the hand of Rees. The Wildcats get the ball back. Wildcats twice in this series have had to come from a game down. That in itself is history in the making. No club has won a championship after coming from a game down twice in the one playoff year. Fisher for three, rimmed out, slapped out by Crawford. Johnson stood his ground to take the ball. Gent. He has no conscience when it comes to shooting. Rees, the offensive rebound and the hook shot is good.
Last two play phases for Rees have been productive because he's got the ball close to the bucket and just put it back in. That's what I believe the Giants have lacked tonight. They've looked a little bit too much to go from the perimeter, and I think Hurley would not be happy with this trading situation here. And the Giants, if they're on their mettle, which they're obviously not, they could be making inroads to this particular scoreline.
Darryl McDonald has missed his first three-pointer in the grand final series. He was perfect before then, and that really underlines what the Giants are going through here today. 69-40, a 29-point lead to Perth. But what about that coming from behind now in two series? Firstly against the Tigers, now against the Giants. Here's Fisher cutting for the baseline, missed the layup, back to Crawford, swinging on the rim for the fourth time. Well, when you're hot, you're hot. When the ball falls your way, that's what's happened to James Crawford this afternoon. 24 points to JC. Johnson down the other end, baseline shot, no good. Rees puts it back.
Bit disappointed in James. That's his sixth dunk, and he's dropped down to 92%, Michael. We'll have to talk to him.
Very, very ordinary, that's for sure. But, I mean, they say luck's a fortune, and let's be honest about it. You make your own luck to a certain degree, but the Wildcats have put all the hustle in, and they've come up with all the loose balls.
Crawford baseline, missed at last. Lahoff goes to Grace in the keyway, back to the skipper, spots it for three. Didn't drop, and Rees got the rebound. The Wildcats had their backs to the wall in the quarterfinals up against the Melbourne Tigers after losing game one. They fought back from that position, and in the grand final series they looked beaten on Friday night in Melbourne, down by 12. They were playing poorly, and they clawed their way back to pull it to the decider. It's a Giants ball, and they've done a terrific job. I think a lot of the momentum of this afternoon goes back to game two on Friday night. We've got a timeout, 7:23 to play in the third. It's a 29-point lead to Perth. And back at the Perth Entertainment Centre so far, it's been the jumping, slamming James Crawford show in this grand final decider. Incredibly, he's made 6 dunks in the game so far, and there he is swinging again like one of those animals that swing off the branches, John.
Well, James Crawford has that ability to elevate, and really that's why he has such a huge shooting percentage in this particular game, and he's really stoked for this game. He's pumped. He knows how important it is.
He's come to play, John, that's for sure, and Adrian Hurley wants to make sure that the Wildcats are still here to play. They're not going to relax, so this team can really come out. And we see a foul there of Lahoff trying to run through a Mark Leader screen instead of perhaps going around it. And that's the pressure that Gent puts on you, because he's so dynamic, or such a dynamic scorer, that you just got to try and get back around him.
Guys, I think from the Giants, you're going to see just an all-out defensive effort, full court pressure regardless of made or missed field goals, and a trapping zone on defense when they get back in the half court. So anytime the ball goes to a side or a corner, it's going to be a trap by 2 of the Giants players.
Well, Johnson stepped up. I mean, he hasn't lost his cool. He's shooting fairly well out there. Has 6 points. He's really taking the lead and shooting from the corners. But I think, Paul, that's all the Giants can do. It's really pride time now, and I know that's disappointing so early in this game, but the Giants really have to come out and play for broke out there. And they'll make some mistakes, but at least they'll have a chance to get it back.
Here's Trahair, baseline, reverse layup, didn't drop, unlucky. Got his own rebound back then. Here's McDonald. Gent for another 3, and there's a foul against Lahoff. Making contact with Chris Gent. That's Blahoff's third foul. We haven't had a player in the grand final series so far that's fouled out. That's quite remarkable, really, isn't it?
Well, they're professionals, Pete, and they get to protect those foul situations very, very clearly. And, of course, the coaches are astutely aware of when they've got to get them out and not. But, of course, from the Wildcats' point of view, this becomes a concentration game. So easy to relax. And by relaxing, you don't turn off, but you just give people like Gent a little bit more freedom. Maybe you try harder to stop him scoring and you make a few mistakes. And that's what's happened to Blahoff. It's put Gent on the foul line for 3 foul shots.
Makes all 3, does Chris Gent. 71-47 now our scoreline. The margin to 24, and Grace is on the break. He's got Catalini and or Blahoff. Blahoff pulls it back out. Grace now on the left wing. McDonald from behind. They go to the top, and Stewart. 6:22 now to play in this third quarter. Martin Catalini. The Wildcats win. It'll be his first championship. Stewart, we come across to Perth from Hobart to play in playoff basketball. Fisher's baseline, nails the 2. Scott Fisher looking for his second championship ring this afternoon. He won a title with North Melbourne in '89. And now has a chance to have 2 rings on the hand. McDonald, blocked by Ricky Grace. Grace with the steal. Down the floor now. Fisher, what will he do? Pulls up. Stewart for 3. Got the front end of the rim. Fisher looking to tip it back in. Catalini's got it, and Catalini is fouled. Martin Catalini makes the shot. It's waved away, and Catalini scoreless so far in this grand final game. Was a bit ill in Melbourne over the weekend, but still played some valuable minutes for Perth.
Well, it's important for somebody like Catalini to step up at this point.
And we've got a timeout. 5:44 to run in the third. The Wildcats 73, North Melbourne 47. Well, the Wildcat superstars are performing this afternoon. Scott Fisher, what a marvellous game. We've mentioned James Crawford, but what about Fisher? 17 points and 4 rebounds so far.
Don't underestimate Fisher. 17 points at absolutely critical times. And remember, he played for the Giants in 87 through to 92.
Guys, the Giants really are, I think you mentioned it earlier, John, the Giants really have to be thinking about the fact that they're playing for pride at this point in time, and Brett's just urging the guys to do nothing halfway. Defensively, he tried to make an adjustment in the previous timeout to get them to trap in the zone, and they've only been doing that sort of half-time. The guys are forgetting about it, so he's pointing out that if they do stand any chance of getting back in this game, they've got to do it all 100%.
Adrian Hurley still coaching to the fullest. He's making sure he makes all the adjustments even at this stage, and he just doesn't want his players to relax at all.
Gents left-handed baseline shot, didn't drop. Johnson swooped on it. Goes to McDonald, no look to Reedy. 5:25 to play before three-quarter time. D-Mac spots it for a triple, didn't drop, and Blahoff got the rebound. Grace is down the floor now. Bucks Senstock. Well, they call it against Lowe.
It was always going to be a foul, wasn't it? You'd have to question who made the contact.
Well, he definitely bumped Senstock.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he knew he had the advantage. You can see on replay. Senstock was still moving, was moving laterally, and that, of course, gave the advantage to the man in possession, this guy on the foul line.
Ricky Grace, 7 points, 8 assists. Injured his back last week. Extensive treatment to get right for the second game in Melbourne on Friday night, and he's showing no signs of any ill effects this afternoon.
I was going to say, Peter, I'll bet you he's not feeling any pain whatsoever right now.
Grace for the second. Marvellous crowd in. The tickets took just a few hours yesterday. After the Wildcats took the series back to Perth to sell, there was 4,000 available to the public, and they lasted, I think, 2.5 hours. Giants get the ball back. Gent clever to McDonald, and he's mugged under the hoop. Heavy foul that.
Yeah, well, I think you'll find some of that continuing. The Wildcats, and I suspect this is what Blahoff's talking to his team about. McDonald saying, give me a break. They're coming across the top. But you won't find any easy buckets given up by either club.
Now Scott Fisher sits down for a rare moment in the third grand final. What a job he's done out there. 17 points and 4 rebounds. A former Giant, and Paul, you've got to say he's going to get great pleasure out of this victory.
He will, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear him let a few of the Giants players know about it. He's the sort of guy who likes to celebrate by rubbing it in a bit, and I suppose you can't blame him. He's played fantastically well in this series.
A long time to go in this game, Pete, and the Giants will not lie down. They're down, but they're not out. Of course, the pressure once more is on the Wildcats to ensure that they execute well.
There's a foul, a whistle. Everything's wiped away. They're talking to Chris Gent now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one there. I think you'll find that Eddie was thinking about calling a foul, then thought better against it, thought there wasn't really enough contact to call a foul. He's done the right thing. He's called the ball back, given it to the Wildcats, but not penalised Gent with a foul.
Michael, I've been very impressed with these three officials, and I made mention of it earlier. They are rightfully refereeing this game, and they've been very complimentary to the game, and that's a tremendous thing for them to do.
Ricky Grace already owns 2 championship rings, makes a drive. The penetration outstanding. Grace, the double figures now 11. Grace 11 points and 8 assists. The lead back out to 29, which is greater than what it was at half-time. The Wildcats led by 28. So if the Giants were going to come back, John, they've made no inroads into that lead at half-time. We played 7 minutes of the third quarter.
And interestingly enough, the first signs of relinquishing any chance came then from Brown. And I'm not being disrespectful to Shanahan, but Shanahan, who hasn't played a lot of minutes, an Australian junior representative, has been brought on for the first time in this playoff series by the Giants.
Here's Stewart. Blahoff got it. Wasn't expecting it. Go back out to Stewart. Time on the clock now, 4:15 before three-quarter time. It's 78-51. Crawford kicked it out. Stewart left open for 3. Can't buy a hoop at the moment, Anthony Stewart. Started the year as a member of the first 5. And we've got an offensive call against McDonald. He's racking up the fouls now. McDonald stood his ground. Brett Brown looks on. Not much he can do now in the coaching position.
And McDonald has used that body movement well all year. Grace just was able to second-guess the right direction and was favoured by the call.
Inside the last 4 minutes of the third term, these two clubs had just 36 hours to prepare. Stewart for 3. Still can't get one. He's got it back again. He won't put up another. New shot clock. You're just 36 hours to prepare between games.
Yeah, it's not a lot, is it?
It becomes a players' game after that.
Oh, it is. Most definitely it is a players' game, and the players are playing it to perfection if you look at the Wildcats. That's exactly right. And Peter, we've made much throughout this series about the experience of the Giants bench. Don't underestimate the experience of James Crawford, Fisher and Blahoff, along with Grace. They've been the cornerstone of this particular significant gap in scoring where you see the Wildcats really building on a massive lead.
Missed the bonus. The MVP performance on this game by James Crawford, but the MVP in the grand final series is determined over 3 matches. And we'll talk about that in the last quarter, but that will be an interesting count. 80-51 the count as far as the scoreline goes. Crawford 26 and 8 rebounds.
Yeah, I thought it's very difficult when you look at a series and you see, I guess, a disappointing fade from the Giants, the title holders, the defending champions. They've faded against the Wildcats team that's been able to build momentum throughout the series.
Matthew Shanahan seeing his first minutes in the grand final series. Going for a second and makes it. A member of that World Youth team that were runners-up in the World titles earlier this year, along with Aaron Trahair and Craig McAndrew, 2 of the Wildcats involved in that. Trahair making the All-Star 5. And now we've got an easy layup. Shanahan gets another 2, so he's making an impact almost immediately. He has 4 now. And the margin back to 25, 80-55. And we've got 3 minutes or just over left in the third. Cats controlling this game. Crowd will see it to the very end. Crawford!
Oh my goodness! Did you see that?
A switch of hands under the hoop, and Crawford makes the highlight reel, his 7th dunk in the grand final, and that earns a standing ovation.
That would earn an ovation anywhere. That wasn't a 360, folks, but it was near enough.
Watch out, the Houston Rockets. I mean, Hakeem has got something to think about now, Michael.
Oh my goodness, that was very, very nice. That was that's the best dunk I've ever seen Crawford make, and I've seen him for a lot of years.
That is a huge statement, isn't it, from Mike Ellis?
Yeah, that's a very confident dunk as well from Crawford. He could have made the easy one, but he really put the polish on it.
28 points now for Crawford. 82-55, a 27-point lead to Perth. I'll win this grand final. Put down the glasses now. 2.5 to run before three-quarter time. This was a team on a mission, and it started during the second half in game 2. Catalini for a triple. No good. Blahoff got a hand in there, and it's a Giants ball. Correct call, that one.
Yeah, good call. Both officials conferred with eye contact, made the right call. 82-55. 2 minutes, 13 seconds before three-quarter time of the deciding game 3 in the Mitsubishi Challenge.
And Paul, watching that game in Melbourne, here's Pearce with a turnaround jumper, and Crawford got another rebound. I really felt the Giants squandered the opportunity on Friday night. They had a chance to nail Perth. They let them off the hook. Series comes to Perth, and the rest is history.
Well, that's probably true. I think up 7 at halftime in game 2, you've got to think that that's your opportunity to take it all away. But credit to the Wildcats, the defense they played in the second half of that game 2 was, well, it's carried on to this game, and you can see what that's been like. Phenomenal. And the Giants just haven't been able to come up with the answers offensively.
Catalini shot rimmed out, and Crawford, like a point guard, jumped on that ball and had a few dribbles as well.
You know, Pete, it's a bit of a pity that James Crawford's dunks aren't particularly counted in double or triple categories out there, because he is really dunking as well as I've seen anybody do this year.
Turnover, Jet behind the back. That was clever. Shanahan going for a couple more and makes it. It's a blocking foul, so Shanahan will go to the line for the three-point play. Stewart, the Wildcats, down to his ground. And what about Matthew Shanahan? Playing just a few minutes, already has racked up 6 points.
Well, he knows where the hoop is. He knows how to score, and he's a very confident young man. He was a member of the Australian Junior Boomers, who finished second in the World Championships earlier on this year. He's on the foul line. Pretty good foul shooter.
Talking about playing a few minutes and racking a couple of things up quickly, this man's already got 2 championship rings to his name.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It's amazing for his age, and, you know, I mean, okay, he didn't play a lot of minutes, but he's still part of any team that's won a championship.
Giants last year, and Magic for memory a couple of years back.
Yeah. Yep, correct.
He's 1 minute to go, John, before three-quarter time.
He's also perfect from the foul line, Peter, throughout this series.
Here's Crawford now in three-point territory. Will he take a shot from there? Might as well. Rees and Blahoff is grabbed. It's a
3-second call.
A violation against the Wildcat skipper.
3-second call. Wildcats trying to go inside. He certainly had the edge on leader, but was there a little bit too long.
Crawford playing the point guard, Josh, running the point down for the big dish inside.
Michael, I will know that he's partying when he attempts a three-point shot.
Hasn't had a lot in his career.
Giants before this game, as Shanahan gets a couple more. As a team, possess 17 championship rings. Senstock has 5. While for the Wildcats, 6 championship rings in their lineup, with Grace, Crawford, the 2 players owing 2 each. So both clubs have been very successful. Here's Blahoff now working against Stelzer. So the Giants using their entire bench. Blahoff liked his chances against Stelzer. Banked it off the glass for a couple. We're counting down now for the last 10 seconds before three-quarter time. Crawford has it. Throw up a shot, James. He doesn't. Trahair, and that is it. Three-quarter time in the grand final, and the Wildcats will head for home 24 points up. 84 to the Giants 60. And we're headed down the home stretch in season 1995. The Wildcats turning for home. 24 points up in the grand final game. And the Giants have missed their first shot in the last term. They'll have to rewrite the record books to win this. No side has ever come from 24 down at the final change to win. Blahoff in three-point territory. The Wildcats now go to Grace, and he scores the opening points of quarter number 4. It's 86-60. A 26 lead to Perth, and Grace now joining in the spoils. He has 13. And a near impossible task for North Melbourne. Jet to the left wing, baseline, they kick it out, and Reedy couldn't keep it alive. A turnover. And what an afternoon to remember for the Perth Wildcats.
Brown hasn't given up either. He's asking the Giants to extend their defence, get out there and play some pressure, be in their face, see if you can pick up some scraps, some easy buckets from layups.
The Wildcats in front by such a massive margin. I guess the players will continue to focus on the game, Paul.
Well, Brett essentially said, guys, I know it hurts, but you've got to go out there and play to try and gain some sort of satisfaction from just having a go. So let it all hang out. You've got nothing to lose. Try and at least have a bit of fun and get a bit of self-respect back by playing this last quarter as hard as possible.
Under the hoop. He has an amazing 30 points now. What a game by James Crawford. 30 points. We've lost count of the number of dunks, 12 rebounds. And this lead is blown out again to 28. 88-60. And we've played a minute and a half on the last, and we have another turnover. Fisher and the Wildcats now want to rewrite another record. Alley-oop. Crawford didn't go for it in the end. Switched hands under the hoop, made the reverse move. And now the leader's back out to 30, 90-60, and Crawford, John, 32 points.
Super effort, isn't it? You can have a little bit of sympathy for him. He was a little tired at that last one, didn't want to get above the ring. But as so often happens, when things go wrong, they go against you. There was a turnover against the Giants.
And we've got a timeout here. 10-10 to run in the fourth. The Wildcats led it by 30. 90-60 as the entertainment on court is taken over now as the players rest up. But this crowd, John, will not leave early.
No.
I'm sure they haven't forgotten what took place. We've mentioned the players and their memories of 93.
Sure.
But the crowd that afternoon were disappointed 2 years ago. And it's a chance for them now to join in the celebrations.
Yeah, there's no doubt that they will party and party on for a long time. But, you know, you have to feel for that man in picture, Brett Brown. You know, he's led the Giants all year, astutely been able to marshal the troops. And there's not a lot more he can do out here this afternoon. His players have just been found wanting, and I just wonder whether we underestimated that brilliant comeback from the Wildcats in Game 2. I think it's really flattened the Giants' spirit.
Well, I did make the point in our news bulletin last night. It was one of the great comebacks in basketball. I mean, they were down by 12 and they were playing poorly, giving the ball up numerous times. Yeah. And then to turn that game around, and primarily on the back of Andrew Blahoff and Ricky Grace, I think that's really set up the victory here this afternoon. They had their backs to the wall. The season was on the line. They've regrouped since halftime in Game 2 Friday night. And this afternoon, they're going to be the NBL champions as we go now to a man that's won 2 titles. He was captain of the Wildcats in 1990 and 91, Mike Ellis.
Yes, thanks, Peter. Adrian Hurley's still, you know, impressing upon these players how much time is left in this game. And I think he's got to do that. You can't afford to really diminish what a great effort they've had so far. And, of course, the Giants aren't going to give up. They're going to be giving it their all, as I'm sure Paul will agree.
Yes, Brett Brown definitely not giving up on his players and trying to give them some instructions to help them out. But I just know as a player, and you would remember, Mike, a few times when this happens to you, there's no worse feeling in the world. With so much at stake to be beaten so comprehensively. I think the Giants players just want to get this over with as quickly as possible. Great block by Crawford.
Number 5 in terms of blocks for James Crawford. Eventually the Giants get a couple to go through Paul Rees. It's a 92-62 scoreline, a 30-point margin. We've mentioned earlier on that record margin in grand final games, and that belongs jointly to both Brisbane and Perth, who won grand finals in 84 and 91. These are grand final games. Brisbane beat Adelaide by 26 and Perth beat Eastside Melbourne by 26, and they have a chance to rewrite that record this afternoon.
Yes, and there's still some tough stuff going out there. Reedy matching up on Blahoff. They're really banging away inside, and once more I've got to compliment the officials. They've really allowed this game to flow.
McDonald picked the pass and went all the way to score 2. 92-64 McDonald, runner-up in the league's MVP in 1994, named in the first All-Star 5 on Monday night at the NBL Awards, and he was a member of that team along with Andrew Blahoff. And he won't give up, Johnny. He has 13.7 assists and 6 rebounds.
Yeah, there's a little problem out here. Eddie Crouch just pulling the game up because the shot clock wasn't activated. It didn't run down from that last possession. And you've got to admire the intensity of McDonald and the competitive spirit. He was quick to bring it to the officials' notice. He wants every second on his side. He hasn't given up.
We mentioned the Wildcats will now go to London to play in the unofficial NBL or the World Club Championships, and we understand that Qantas have put together a special package for basketball fans. They can fly over, I think, as early as Tuesday. So if you're interested, ring the club or ring Qantas. That package is available as of working hours tomorrow. Especially Wildcats fans, they might be interested in making the trip with you and the team.
Well, it's, you know, I suppose you've got to say the Giants are doing a pretty good effort at this stage. And, yeah, the London trip's going to be the icing on the cake. You play all year to win a championship, but, of course, the bonus this year is that London trip, and what a fantastic trip it will be. But the Wildcats have still got 8 minutes left to prove they deserve to go, and I think they've done a fair job to this point.
92-66, a point since half-time for North Melbourne. Half-time of that game, too. It dried up completely. Traher, the fadeaway, uncontested, shot didn't drop, put back by Vlahoff. Now Andrew Vlahoff is rapidly firming his favourite now for the MVP of the Grand Final Series. Well, you've got to remember that that award is voted over 3 matches. Vlahoff is terrific in game 2. And he's having a wonderful afternoon here. They're on the break now. Traher can go to Vlahoff, who makes another 2. Andrew Vlahoff has 23 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists. Yes. And he would just about be favourite now for the MVP in the Grand Final.
Well, Gent from the Giants has played very, very well throughout the whole series. He's faded in this game. James Crawford hasn't had the best of games in the lead-up, and I think he has certainly been the instrumental man behind the Wildcats' victory in this Grand Final. He's my MVP no matter what else happens in this particular game.
Yeah, no argument there as Crawford sits down. But in the series, Mike, I mean, who do you favour at this stage?
Well, I mean, there's been some great all-round performances. McDonald's done a manful job, you know, in all 3 games, and so has Ricky Grace. I mean, you can't take away from either of those, but I suppose, you know, Vlahoff overall, you tend to lean that way a little bit. But, by gee, it's so hard to pick. There's been so many good players from both sides.
You've mentioned Grace, Mike. He's been twice MVP in a Grand Final Series. Paul, your thoughts on that one?
Well, I'll leave it to the experts, but I suppose if I had to pick one, I'd probably give it to Vlahoff. And he hasn't necessarily come up with the numbers in all 3 games, but his leadership has been instrumental in Perth coming back from a 1-game deficit.
Here's Senstock in his 8th Grand Final Series, aiming for his 6th championship ring this afternoon, but it's all gone south for North Melbourne. Larry himself's been very quiet, John, just 2 points for the game.
Yes, and he's been a big contributor, so he would be disappointed. But he has a lot of teammates on the bench that would be equally disappointed because this is not the way they would envisage closing out what's been a remarkable season for them.
Wildcats looking to complete the treble. Senstock put on the line, the shot rimmed out, and Vlahoff got the rebound. He got tangled up with Gent. And there's a tech. Tech against Chris Gent. Obviously had words there with the ref. Wasn't happy with the call. And now the wheels, are they starting to fall off North Melbourne?
That's the unhappy part, isn't it? You know, Gent's been such a super player, but he really has been plagued by emotion. I really don't know enough about his NBA career, but one wonders whether that just held him back a little bit because he's such a super athlete. He wasn't happy. He was hanging on to Vlahoff. He was out-muscled in that circumstance, but he really has got the frustration showing at the moment.
And they give the ball to the Wildcats' best foul shooter. The Giants have 2-on-5 personals now. Senstock and Gent. Gent is sitting down with a frustrating afternoon for him. So much rested on his shoulders, Paul, when you assessed North Melbourne's chances. A lot relied on what Gent came up with.
Well, that's true to an extent, but I would say, you know, in this 3rd game, I would have to disagree with you because it was going to have to be a consummate team performance to win over here, and a few guys are going to have to step up other than just Chris Gent.
Well, another foul, and the Wildcats now exchanging high fives, and why not? That will be against D-Mac, I sense.
Yeah, it was on D-Mac, and that was such a good example of Andrew Vlahov's dedication and effort. I thought he did look tired through the early part of the series. He goes off to the plaudits of this appreciative crowd. He wears the mantle of captain extremely well these days.
Andrew Vlahov along the bench, a victory salute that. His second championship ring, his first as captain of the Perth Wildcats, coming up in less than 6.5 minutes now. Matt Earp has come in for the skipper. He played a few minutes on Friday night. A big moment during that second term, but it's a lot more relaxed this afternoon. He's got the ball, draws the fake, will go to the foul line, so Earp now can score in a grand final game. I mentioned those couple of minutes he played on Friday night. They were pressure minutes in that second quarter, but the afternoon match this afternoon is, I think, a situation he will relish now.
Of course he will. I mean, he gets to play in a championship team. He gets minutes on the floor. He's on the foul line uncontested, and he'll make the next one, I guess.
It'll be great to see some of the bench, Mike, the guys that have put in all the work at practice during the year, enjoy some moments out on the court.
Well, quite often the benches are forgotten in situations like this. I mean, they're the guys that put in the same amount of work as the starters. They put in probably even more at times. And, you know, they really do deserve some credit as well.
Here's McDonald. He's drawn a foul. Ends up on the floor.
Gee, McDonald's played hard. He hasn't given up. He's really been in a team that's been far below their best performance, and he's frustrated with it, but he's never given up, and he's been a great athlete through the years, through this year and last year, I should say, and really will keep on trying.
Wildcats put their stamp on this game nice and early. They led by 15 at quarter time, blew it out to 28 at the half, 24 at three-quarter time. Another whistle. What are they seeing here?
Well, if Matt wants to get onto the stats sheet, he's doing a good job of it. Straight down, 2 foul shots and 2 fouls.
Yeah. And of course, this is what can often happen, Michael, isn't it? You know, when the situation has such an imbalance sometimes, and it's always an uncanny situation, the calls tend to go the other way. The momentum's almost out of the game, and people tend to lose the focus on the first 3 quarters that were so brilliant.
McDonald now to 17, the Giants to 70. They're still down by 27 though, 97 to 70. Stewart yet to score, puts up a short jumper, didn't get the hometown roll, and it's a North Melbourne ball. Anthony Stewart, none from 6. He's put up 5 3-point attempts, and so far has been dry. Less than 6 to run now. The leader in his last game puts a sweet move on that to hit for a couple all net. Mark Leader will retire and take up an assistant's role on the coaching staff. In fact, he already is an assistant as we've got another timeout here. The Giants are hanging in there. They're down by 25, 97 to 72, 5:49 to play. And Perth in their huddle. Adrian Hurley, let's spare a thought to him. Took this team to a grand final his first year with the Wildcats, 93. He's gone one better today.
And he's coached extremely well throughout the play.
Conduct themselves as a classy team and just try and take as much pride from that as they possibly can.
3 or 4 turnovers and steals in that passage. Grace for 3. It'll be a miraculous basket. Earp got a big rebound. Lost a handle on it, knocked away by the Giants' defense. So the Wildcats will come up with possession along the baseline. There's Matt Earp, wide body, a lad that was born in Beverley, country town in WA. He's made good in the big time. 3rd year in the league. Hands off to Stewart. Here's Grace now. He'll enjoy this. He's taken the Wildcats to 5 grand final series now in his time with Perth. Earp on the dribble. Where will he go? Back to Grace in the face of McDonald. They've got 10 on the shot clock. Grace with the left hand. Shot was short. Rebound Earp. And he gets it. Coming off the bench, Matt Earp scores a couple. 99 to 72. They're all going to be heroes tonight as Pierce fires and hits for a triple.
Well, great effort from Matty Earp as he came onto the floor then. Had to reward perseverance. Anthony Stewart looking to making his first 2 points. He didn't come up with anything. Johnson on the break, McDonald to the right.
Missed everything. Johnson, Stewart on the floor, beaten to it by McDonald. 4.5 now. Pierce for another 3, and Stewart got the defensive rebound. Down the floor, the Wildcats come now. Ricky Grace, like he started, to Catalini. Catalini scores. Another assist to the champ, Ricky Grace. He has 10 for the game. 10 assists and 13 points. There's the Wildcats bench, and John, a big moment for young Ryan Gardner, your son. His first minutes in this NBL Grand Final Series. Anthony Stewart will sit down, so Adrian Hurley now giving the unsung heroes a chance out there. Jason Thompson as well, along with Ryan Gardner. So apart from Ricky Grace, the Wildcats going with their bench. Gardner's got it. A fumble by North Melbourne. Will he go to the corner? Catalini, this is for 3. Shot was short and Leader got the rebound. What about young Ryan out there? Big moment for him.
Well, huge moment for any young player at this level to step up and be a part of the championship team. But Peter, the 5 that you're seeing coming in now have worked so hard through practice. They push the studs all the time, and that's been very demonstratively illustrated in the way that people like Grace have played, the way Vlahoff has played, the way Fisher has played. The Fodder, as they're affectionately known, have had a big part in this championship all year.
The leader from range, Irv couldn't control the rebound. Catalini did, gave it to Ricky Grace. It's a 3-on-3 situation. Thompson pulls up. They put up the volume here already. The crowd stomping and clapping, singing along now. We're counting down 3:20 before the final buzzer. Gardner kicks it out. Thompson for a 3. Couldn't get it. Irv got the rebound, lost it coming down. And now Pierce brings it down the other end of the floor. His last game, we believe, for North Melbourne. He may continue in the league. There's a couple that will retire, I think, from North Melbourne. Certainly Leader will. That was him then working along the baseline. It's his last game for North Melbourne. A distinguished career, Paul, coming to a close.
Oh, definitely. Mark Leader has been probably one of the most under-recognized players throughout his career. He is a consummate team player and a regular fix-it man. He's one of those guys, no matter what you need him to do, he can go in there, and he's a versatile player, and it'll be sad to see him go. He's been a fantastic captain and a fantastic player for the Giants for a long time.
Well, Ryan Gardner has scored in the grand final. Dad went to a couple of Olympics, but Ryan has done something, John, that eluded you.
Well, I came up with a 2nd place in the 87 Wildcat team, but Ryan, along with his teammates, have stepped up a lot quicker. And let's give some credit here to Ricky Grace. Ricky Grace steps off. What a tremendous year he has had. He's led from the back. He's been the premier point guard in the league, and he's certainly come out and played today.
The Wildcats have their entire bench at the present time. Catalini, Stewart, Thompson and Gardner. A chance now for these guys to revel in the atmosphere. 8,000 fans here. Thompson controls it well in the end. We're down to 2:19 before the final hooter. Stewart for 3. Still can't buy one. Catalini couldn't control it. North Melbourne down the floor. Pierce get it inside to Leader, who's fouled by Stewart. And the Wildcats this afternoon, Mike, will become the 2nd club in the NBL to have won 3 titles. Canberra have achieved that feat, but Perth now, after victories in 90 and 91, will make it a 3rd in 1985.
Well, I think it was fairly fitting, Peter, that these 2 teams played off in this grand final series, because there's no question that both of these teams have been the 2 teams, the force and power teams of the 90s so far. And, you know, I suppose it's disappointing from one point of view that the scoreline indicates what it is, because this has been such a great series. It deserved to be a lot closer.
A 25-point lead to the Wildcats, and we're down to 2 minutes now. Yes, North Melbourne and the Wildcats have participated in 8 of the last 9 grand finals. One of these 2 teams have been in the grand final, although this is the first time the Wildcats and the Giants have played in a grand final. Such has been their dominance. Thompson went for a spectacular move, didn't come off. Leader down the floor, he's trying hard, and he's drawn a foul against Ryan Gardner. And John, you've got to take responsibility for that move by young Ryan.
Just wasn't tough enough. He should have done a little bit earlier. But Peter, the Wildcats have worked very, very well throughout the season, and I think you have to remember that in the latter part of the season they were able to build through their structure. They played a lot of the top teams early in the season. In the latter part, they just snuck up on everybody, got the minor premiership, which is no mean feat, and they've been able to put in place a lot of structure and system that's worked well for them in the latter part.
Leader in his 4th grand final series, nails the 2nd, 103-80. The Wildcats just the 2nd club now since the NBL's gone to a best-of-3 grand final series to win the championship after losing game 1. Magic did a couple of years back. Now the Wildcats have done it. A tough ask. They've had to come from behind here to nail the Giants. Gardner kicked it out to Stewart. 1:21 in the crowd will soon count down to Stewart at last. Well, he looks up to the heavens and says, at last I've got a 3. Anthony Stewart has put up 7 attempts this afternoon. He's on the board now. It's a 26-point lead, make that 24. Stelter got a few back, or was it Leader? Leader hit 2 back. 106 to 82. A 24-point lead to the Wildcats, and we're inside now, the last minute. Thompson, not a good shot, down the floor. There's the clock, it's running, 47 seconds now. And Shanahan missed the layup, but drew a foul. Clock stops at 45.5 seconds.
Be interesting, Peter, to see whether the Wildcats can get Jason Thompson on the board. He'd be disappointed having not made those shots. But right now, I think you'll find Adrian Hurley's called a timeout to help his team, help the crowd enjoy what has been a marvellous effort.
Well, at last, the Wildcats have broken out. They know they've got this one. The smile on Ricky Grace's face a moment ago told the story. And there's part of the sellout crowd here at the Entertainment Centre getting really involved here. And why not? They're rare things to come across championships. And they've got one now in 1995. Marvellous effort. In fact, they'll pull off the trifecta this year. The Wildcats won the pre-season tournament. John mentioned a moment ago, they're the minor champions in 95. And now, this afternoon, they'll win the big one, the Mitsubishi Challenge. And so they've got all 3. And these players, no doubt, will lap up, Mike, the last 45.5 seconds.
Well, I think you'll find at this stage they're obviously going to celebrate it, but what they want to do is, I think you'll find Jason Thompson's probably the only Wildcat that hasn't scored at this point. So I think they'll probably try and run a play and at least get Jason on the scoreboard for the grand final as well.
Well, been a marvellous effort. Anthony Stewart frustrated with his poor shooting. Really enjoyed that last one. But look at those twin towers, Crawford and Vlahoff. They've been the pillars of strength in this series and particularly in this win. Boy, they're ready to party.
Well, he is, isn't he? He's got the groove going already, Big James, and why not? What a game he played, 32 points. Vlahoff 23, Fisher 18. All their major stars standing up to be counted this afternoon. They needed out the Wildcats. They've been criticised for their lack of depth on the bench, but their studs came to play and they've steered the team to victory. Let's check that scoreline now as the clock starts to run. Thompson on the board to you. There you go. All 10 of the Wildcats players on the score sheet. They'll all want to photocopy that and frame it. 108 to 84, the Cats headed to London. From the corner, Pearce couldn't get it to go. Shanahan liked his game in the second half. Got the rebound and the Giants tipped it in. The scoreline now 108 to 86. It looks like the Giants will avoid the record margin for defeat in the grand final. No, probably that's appropriate. They're down by 22 and this will probably now be the last play before the final hooter. They're sharing the ball. Catalini for 3. Shot was short.
Almost went off the board.
Got it back to work. They've blown the whistle. They don't count the basket and they've stopped the clock at 6.1 seconds.
Well, I don't think the Wildcats will worry about academic things such as scores.
Well, the crowd is getting restless. They can't wait for the final hooter and they're already standing as 1. But we have got 6.1 seconds to run and Stelter nails one from the foul line. So definitely the Giants will avoid the embarrassment of a record defeat. Will they? Let's just check that. 26 is the margin and they're down now by 20. So 108 to 88. We're counting down. 3, 2. Here's Rudy. The Wildcats are champions. The Wildcats have won their 3rd championship in the NBL. Champions for 1995. Let the crowd tell the story. Andrew Vlahoff, captain this afternoon, captain, and he's opening the champagne. Wildcats are ready to party. The club's third title. Martin Catalini's excited. Andrew Glahoff, the skipper, tasted defeat 2 years ago. James Crawford, what an afternoon he had. It's his third championship ring. We saw a brief glimpse of Stokes. And now the balloons and streamers are starting to fall. What a moment in that huddle there. Man that's experienced it has been Mike Ellis. He's been there a couple of times. Scotty Fisher, third year with the club. They've got the caps on now, Perth. And what a moment. Well, we haven't brought back a national title this year in other sports, but the Wildcats have done it this afternoon. And let's go to Mike Ellis now, who's with the skipper. The only two captains ever in the Wildcats history, and they both can share something now. They've led the club to a championship.
Thanks, Peter. Well, hey, what can I say? That's a hell of a game, pal.
Oh, mate. Most unbelievable feeling. That's the sweetest ever.
Well, mate, before we do anything else, you've got to admire the Giants. They're a fantastic team.
Great team. They play hard. No, just unfortunately today we were better on the day. The first two games there was nothing in either of them, and just got lucky today.
Well, mate, I don't know about luck. You guys just came out. The focus was there at the start. And what about Mr. James Crawford tonight? Unbelievable.
Praise God for James Crawford. Unbelievable. Fantastic. He came big when we needed him to come big, and that's what pro is all about.
Well, mate, I've seen James play for a lot of years. I've played alongside him, and I've watched him the last few. That reverse dunk he did was the best dunk I've seen him ever do.
Oh, my. I cannot believe that. That was the best dunk I've ever seen.
Mate, unbelievable. Listen, go back and enjoy it. I'm going to be with you in a minute. Peter, we're going straight back to you.
Good on you, Mike. We saw Adrian Hurley, who hasn't come back out on the centre court, having a drink from the side. And what a performance at the helm for the Wildcats. Brett Brown, spare a thought for North Melbourne and Brett Brown. They experienced last season. The Wildcats will experience this afternoon and tonight. Wildcats now going across to their bench, and Ricky Grace, his third championship with the Wildcats. He's taken the club now to a number of grand finals, and he was another superstar this afternoon.
No doubt about Ricky. Ricky's been challenged every year that he's played in the Mitsubishi Challenge by recruits. Look at the faces there of the Melbourne Giants. They tasted victory last year. They know the sourness of defeat here, and they'll reflect and come back as the true professionals they are, and they've been a marvellous team all year. I guess that second game, Peter, really took a little more out of them, and the veterans maybe found that it was a little tougher. Whilst the Wildcats didn't use their bench early, they had youth enthusiasm and a future to build on when they looked to their bench. Crawford, the main man for my money tonight.
Wildcats having a well-deserved drink. Plenty of handshakes amongst the Cats. Matt Earp, all the bench getting involved. Andrew Glahoff, there's the assistant coach, Dave Hancock. He's been there 3 times now. The Wildcats are champions for 1985. 108 to the Giants, 88. We'll take a break and come back with the presentation shortly. And back at the Perth Entertainment Centre, a 20-point victory to the Wildcats in Game 3, the decider. And that was the reaction from the bench to the Wildcats on the final hooter. And now I can tell you the feeling is just starting to sink in that the club is champions for 1995. As we go to Bill Palmer now, the Chief Executive of the NBL, for the presentation of the trophies.
To begin the presentation of the 1995 Mitsubishi Challenge Championship Trophy.
Thank you very much, Ned. Firstly, I'd like to say this has been an enormous Mitsubishi Challenge season. Certainly, it has been, without a doubt, the most closely contested season that we've had. If we look at the playoff series itself, there were 7 playoff series. 5 of them went to 3-game, including this wonderful grand final series. Top to bottom, every year the league is getting better, the players are getting better, but there was another outstanding achievement that happened this year with Perth winning the grand final. And that was the Wildcats have become the only team since the start of the National Basketball League to win the Triple Crown. That is, they won the preseason, the minor round premiership, and now the championship. So congratulations to the Perth Wildcats. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the chairman of the National Basketball League, Malcolm Speed.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Perth Wildcats, in going forward to win the Mitsubishi Challenge Grand Final this year, have shown many characteristics. But the outstanding characteristic this year, after being 10 points down in Game 2 against the North Melbourne Giants, was to come back to win Game 2 and to come into this game playing great, intense defence and to show the sort of character that's become synonymous with the Mitsubishi Challenge and basketball in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, Australian basketball takes another step forward. For the last 7 years, the NBL and Basketball Australia have been negotiating with the NBA and with FIBA to be included in the World Club Championships, the McDonald's Championship. This year, tomorrow, the Perth Wildcats are going to London to take on the Houston Rockets and the best teams in the world. At this stage of proceedings, before I call forward Mr. David Dolan, Operations Manager for Mitsubishi Motors Australia, I'd like to thank Mitsubishi Motors Australia, the naming rights sponsors for the Mitsubishi Challenge. Basketball relies heavily on its sponsors. Mitsubishi are a great contributor to our basketball product. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome Mr. David Dolan.
Thank you, Mel. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Mitsubishi Motors Australia Limited, it gives us great pleasure to be here tonight to see these two great teams fight out the grand final of the Mitsubishi Challenge. It's been a very close fought season, and both of these teams have done both the National Basketball League and their supporters proud. But there can only be one winner, and firstly, I think we should offer our commiserations to the North Melbourne Giants. They played a magnificent series. And hearty congratulations to the Perth Wildcats on a fabulous win. As major sponsors of the National Basketball League, Mitsubishi would like to acknowledge, first and foremost, the supporters, the players, the coaches and the administrators of all 14 teams. We'd also like to acknowledge the NBL management and officials, and last but certainly not least, we'd like to acknowledge the media, and particularly Network 10, for their support during the year. Mitsubishi looks forward to being back next year when we see who'll fight it out for the next grand final, the 1996 grand final of the Mitsubishi Challenge Trophy. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the National Basketball League has always had what I think is a terrific tradition of recognizing the team that's finished ahead of all but one other team, and that is the runner-up team, and we'd like now to call forth the Giants players to receive this recognition. Firstly, the captain of the Giants in his last game in the NBL, 327 games, Mark Leader. Also retiring after a long and distinguished career with both Adelaide and North Melbourne, 374 games, Daryl Iceman Pierce. John Stelzer. A young man who played on the silver medal team in the under-20 World Championships, Matthew Shanahan. The longest-serving player in the NBL, a player who was actually played in the first year of the NBL, Larry Sinstock. Player who had a terrific series against Perth in Game 1, Rod Johnson. Player who last year won the Grand Final MVP award, Paul Reese. National team player who had 2 very good games in the first 2 games, Pat Reedy. Next player really won Game 1 off of his own bat, played a terrific first half in Game 2, Chris Gent. First team NBL All-Star, Daryl McDonald. Last year's NBL Coach of the Year, Brett Brown. His assistant, Steve Breeny, and team manager, Noel Leslie. Congratulations again to the North Melbourne Giants. And now Perth, probably something you've been waiting for, the awarding of the championship rings. Along with the rings this year, the Perth Wildcats get a traveling bag with a ticket in it to London. First, and appropriately so for his wonderful game tonight, veteran and still a jumping jack, James Crawford. Next, a young man who is, over the last couple of seasons, has improved tremendously, become a very solid member of the Perth rotation, Martin Catalini. Next, the star of the under-20 Australian team, finished in the All-Star All-World team and played like an All-World player tonight, Aaron Trahale. Next, and you really can't say much of him because you watched his play over the 3 series. It's been tremendous. The slashing Ricky Grace. Next, the captain of the Perth Wildcats had a tremendous final series and an inspirational season, Andrew Vaughan. A young player who's come out of the blocks to earn his way into the 10-man rotation, Ryan Gardner. The next, the man who's come a long way from Tasmania, Anthony Stewart. The next man, the Marshal, Matt Earp. Man who has had an absolutely distinguished and exciting NBL career and looks to go on and on and on, Scott Fisher. The next three players are players that you don't see much on the court, but they've trained with the team all year long, battling for one of those 10 positions. Without them, no team can survive. The first is Cameron Jackson. Jason Thompson. Craig McAndrew. And the coach of the Wildcats, who's done such a sensational job since he came here, Dr. Adrian Hurley. His assistant coach, Dave Hancock. And team manager, as you all know, the famous Mike Ellis. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to the team trophies. The National Basketball League has 2 trophies. One is the Dr. John Rasky Memorial Trophy, which the team keeps for a year and then must pass on to the next championship team. The other is this beautiful Mitsubishi Challenge Trophy. It's a trophy that the team gets to keep in perpetuity. Could I call forward, please, Adrian Hurley and Andrew Vlahoff to accept the trophies.
Thank you very much. I just want to congratulate our team. We started a campaign back in October, November last year. We went to the United States and we came back and we set out to win the pre-season and the minor premiership. And then for the boys to go through and win all 3 is fantastic and a great effort. I don't take all of Andrew's thunder here, but we have a lot of people to thank for what's happened this year. James Bridle, our trainer, has done a tremendous job. He was our manager for 6 years, and he's come here again. And we had Dave Ellis, we had Bern Reid, Kerry Stokes, our wonderful owner, and everyone on the board at ACE. You can't do it without the support of all of those people who've done a fantastic job over the last 12 months. Dave Hancock, my assistant, has just been a tower of strength all year, and thanks very much, Dave. You've been great. We thank Mike Ellis, and if he can come down and spend some time with us during the game instead of being on TV, he'll even be a better manager. I'd particularly like to thank the young kids, and particularly those who didn't get on much court time this year. Our 9, 10, 11, 12 are very, very important. But I especially want to single out the 4 guys who brought this championship together: Andrew Blahoff, James Crawford, Scott Fisher, Ricky Grace. At the beginning of the year, I sat down with those 4 gentlemen and said that if we're going to win, those 4 gentlemen have to be the leaders, they have to be cohesive, they have to lead from the front, and they have to be the glue, the strength, and the being of this team, and they were. Thank you all very much.
Firstly, I'd just like to thank the North Melbourne Giants for providing such a memorable experience for us. I'd also like to thank Mitsubishi for making this league possible, and also our major sponsor, Coca-Cola, for without those sorts of companies, we wouldn't exist. I'd also like to thank our owner, Kerry Stokes, who's done a tremendous job for us this year. I'd like to thank all our supporters, all the people here tonight. You guys are excellent. But most of all, I'd like to thank the guys standing over there, my teammates. Thank you. Yes, baby!
Ladies and gentlemen, there is one more award to be made. It takes great pleasure in the Grand Final Series. The league does name a most valuable player. We've seen some extraordinary performances from both sides, but overall, for his inspirational leadership as well as his wonderful statistics in every game, the captain of Perth, Andrew Blahoff.
Thank you very much. I've just got one other thing to say. Look out, Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets, baby. We're on our way to London.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we close the ceremony, again, I'd like to thank the league sponsors, Mitsubishi, the naming rights sponsor, Coca-Cola, Qantas, and the other corporate supporters of the NBL like ProStar, who have done such a great job to help put on this league that every year goes from strength to strength. I'm sure the people in Perth have a bit of partying to do tonight, so I'll shut up and get off the stage. And we'll see you all next year in 1996. Congratulations again to the Perth Wildcats.
Yes, no question about that. The Wildcats champions for 1995, beating North Melbourne in the third and deciding game. The scoreline 108 to 88 scenes. I think that will be remembered for a long, long time. And yes, watch out for the Rockets. The Wildcats are on their way. It's been a marvellous year as we go back to Sydney now and Bill Woods to wrap up.
Thank you, Peter Ansell and the entire Network 10 team. One of the most comprehensive playoff victories in NBL history, and yet another big win in a grand final for the Australian sporting winter. We'll be back with more in just a moment. When we return, a look back at this marvellous season and a look ahead for the Perth Wildcats. Welcome back to Network 10's climax of the Mitsubishi Challenge for 1995. If you've just joined us, Perth comprehensive winners in Game 3 over the North Melbourne Giants. In a moment I'll give you details of their next mission, which is a privilege for Australian basketball. The first time ever our leading club has been invited to take part in the McDonald's Club Championship, the World Club Championship, and the first game will be against the NBA champions 2 times, Houston Rockets. But right now let's have a look at why Perth has earned the right to be there.
The hair left open, this is for 3, it'll bring the house down. It does, the opening score. Here's Reedy, working close to the hoop, couldn't get the shot to go. Vlahoff at it to Grace, Trahair, another 2, reverse layup is good. He's lost the handle on a turnover. Trahair, Grace 3-on-2 situation, Grace scores.
Yes, Adrian Hurley obviously concerned about this Giants group. He knows how quickly they can score and how quickly they can gobble up this lead, and he certainly made sure that he told everybody about it. And
Thank you, James Crawford. Massive block. Both clubs in their 51st playoff game this afternoon. Gent for 3, they needed that. Grace for 3. Well, he's on fire. Ricky has 7 now. Johnson to McDonald, rotation to Gent. Good shot that was a 3. And Chris Gent now has 14. He's hit 3 3-pointers. He had 9 3-pointers going into this game in the grand final so far. So he has 12, and you've got to say at 14 points and at 45%, he's doing his job.
Oh, he'll come up with his average against the Wildcats this year, which is about 28. There's no doubt about that. He won't stop shooting. He'll continue to score and score well. The real question will be...
jam, John. Third jam to Crawford. And the margin back to 25, 80 to 55. And we've got 3 minutes or just over left in the third. Cats controlling this game. Crowd will see it to the very end. Crawford!
Oh my goodness! Did you see that?
A switch of hands under the hoop, and Crawford makes the highlight reel, his 7th dunk in the grand final, and that earns a standing ovation.
That would earn an ovation anywhere. That wasn't a 360, folks, but it was near enough.
Less than 6 to run now. The leader in his last game puts a sweet move on that. Down before the Wildcats come now. Ricky Grace, like he started, to Catalini. Catalini scores. Another assist to the champ, Ricky Grace. He has 10 for the game. 103 to 80. The Wildcats just the second club now since the NBL's gone to a best-of-3 grand final series to win the championship after losing Game 1. Magic did a couple of years back. Now the Wildcats have done it. A tough ask. They've had to come from behind here to nail the Giants. Gardner kicked it out to Stewart. 121 in the crowd will soon count down to Stewart at last. Well, he looks up to the heavens and says at last, I've got a 3. Anthony Stewart has put up 7 attempts this afternoon. He's on the board now. It's a 26-point lead, make that 24. Stelzer got a few back, or was it Lita? Lita hit 2 back. 106 to 82. Let's check that scoreline now as the clock starts to run. Thompson on the board to you. There you go. All 10 of the Wildcats players on the score sheet. They'll all want to photocopy that and frame it. 108 to 84. The Cats headed to London. From the corner, Pearce couldn't get it to go. Shanahan liked his game in the second half. Got the rebound and the Giants tipped it in. The scoreline now 108 to 86. And they're already standing as 1. But we have got 6.1 seconds to run, and Stelzer nails one from the foul line. So definitely the Giants will avoid the embarrassment of a record defeat, will they? Let's just check that. 26 is the margin, and they're down now by 20. So 108 to 88, we're counting down. 3, 2, here's Rudy. The Wildcats are champions. The Wildcats have won their 3rd championship in the NBL. Champions for 1995. Let the crowd tell the story.
A 20-point win. It's appropriate that they should be in such